the realm of trees descends upon the Douluo Continent. Welcome back, brave explorers of impossible worlds. We are excited to have you here to continue this odyssey together. Before we continue, everything you'll hear is pure fiction. So please don't try to replicate combat techniques at home. This wonderful story in all its rights belong to its brilliant original author. We are only the messengers of entertainment. Want another dose of adventure? Subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a single chapter. And if you can't wait, our Patreon has exclusive surprises you'll love. Chapter 301 The Clear Sky Sect beset by internal and external troubles and Tang San's thoughts. Aside from Xiao Wu and his mother, spirit beasts are spirit beasts after all. Those who are not of our kind are bound to have different hearts. However, now is the time to use their power. A cold glint flashed in Tang San's heart, but a bitter smile appeared on his face. Senior, the Heaven Dao Empire is too powerful. If we let them unify the continent, it will benefit none of us, although they won't let spirit beasts become extinct. When the Empire's strength reaches a certain level, do you think they will let a spirit beast like you go? Humans' desire for 100,000-year spirit rings is beyond your imagination. At that time, if they only mobilize half of the Empire's strongest warriors, even you and the ones beside you wouldn't be able to stop the overwhelming attack. BG fell into thought upon hearing this. It must be said that what Tang San said made some sense, but the other party seemed to have misunderstood one thing. They were never afraid of humans, and they had also miscalculated their own strength. What they were afraid of was that going too far would attract the attention of the God Realm. Although there are strong individuals among the humans, they are protected by the Beast God, and the Bear King and the Demon King are formidable fighters. Humans simply cannot touch the core area of the starred out Great Forest. I must say, what you say makes some sense, BG said, seeing Tang San's delighted expression. However, we also have our own considerations. Tang San's smile froze, and his brows furrowed. This was an answer he hadn't expected before coming here. After all, the lives of spirit beasts are lives too. No one wants to be hunted by humans. Senior, why don't you reconsider? If you agree, I can assure you that the Luo Empire will definitely develop peacefully with the starred out Great Forest, and the Empire can even cede an area to establish a spirit beast gathering place. At that time, 100,000-year-old spirit beasts will be protected, and the people of Luo will never target you. Senior, I'm saying this truly for the sake of the spirit beast community. Daming should know how cruel the 7-treasure glazed tile school is. Tang San finished speaking and turned to look at the azure bull python. The situation in the Luo Empire is far from optimistic, and the Clear Sky Sect, as a pillar of the empire, holds second only to the Luo Emperor in terms of influence. Tang San's words are not empty rhetoric. He believes the Luo Emperor will agree to this condition in order to prevent the Luo Empire from being annexed by the Heaven Dao Empire. As for the issue of soul beasts after successfully repelling the Heaven Dao attack, or even annexing the Heaven Dao Empire, that's a matter for the future. The azure bull python, which had been listening quietly, had its unpleasant memories stirred up by Tang San's words. Thinking of Xiao Wu, Erming, and Xiao Wu's mother, anger gradually rose in its heart. Those humans are truly hateful. My family all died at their hands. Lady BG, are we soul beasts destined to be slaughtered and turned into soul rings? The azure bull python's words were exactly what Tang San wanted. He looked at BG with grief and indignation. Senior, my mother was forced to her death by humans. She was a soul beast who transformed into human. If the special zone is built, soul beasts will have a safe place to live after transforming. It must be said that BG was somewhat moved by the beautiful picture Tang San painted. Transforming into human form after 100,000 years was always a very dangerous thing, but it was also a way to increase one's potential and temporarily save one's life. Humans were naturally blessed, not only cultivating faster than soul beasts, but also having a sliver of possibility of becoming gods. This was also a choice made by most soul beasts, who knew they couldn't survive the heavenly tribulation. BG's eyes flickered, however, this was not something she could decide. A wisp of spiritual energy slowly drilled into the bottom of the lake, waking Tian from his healing. She wouldn't do this unless absolutely necessary. After all, Tian's injuries from the heavenly tribulation were severe, and if he didn't recover quickly, he might perish in the next heavenly tribulation. After a long while, a message entered BG's mind. This human's eyes are shifty, his tone seems weak, but it's actually perfectly calculated. He's too calculating, not entirely telling the truth. Refuse, Tian transmitted the message to Biji's mind and then fell into deep sleep. He had managed the soul beasts for hundreds of thousands of years, witnessing countless power struggles, but he mostly ignored them. Biji was startled by this. The divine beast wouldn't lie to her. Coming to her senses, her gaze towards Tang San turned much colder. The conditions you've described are indeed very good, but we are very satisfied with the starred-out great forest before us, so you don't need to worry about it. With that, Biji flapped her wings and disappeared. This left Tang San completely bewildered, followed by deep disappointment and anger. Suddenly, a thought flashed through his mind, and he looked at the azure bull python. Ming, do you want to avenge Xiao Wu and Erming? If we miss this opportunity, we'll never have another chance to get revenge. Luo Empire, Antonio City. The atmosphere in the City Lord's Council Hall was extremely tense. Why wasn't it you who died? The seventh elder, his face flushed with anger, pointed at Tang Hao and launched into tirade. If it weren't for you, how could our Clear Sky sect have ended up like this? And I heard you've been protecting your son all these years. You clearly had so many opportunities to act. Why didn't you kill Li Sun beforehand? Also, where were you when we were fighting desperately on the front lines? A barrage of insults and questions left Tang Hao speechless. He was also shocked, never expecting that the boy he once was could grow to this level. Twin martial souls, 100,000-year soul rings. Compared to one of them, Tang San was practically an ordinary person. The seventh elder was right, he clearly had two easy opportunities to kill him. When Li Sun argued with Xiaogang over acquiring his second spirit ring, Tang Hao at Soto City secretly regretted his actions. You've been pretending to be mute ever since you returned to the sect, and you're still doing it now. I heard your son has always had conflicts with Li Sun. I think you and your son are jinxes to the Clear Sky sect. Where's your bastard son? Did he say he could help the sect overcome its difficulties? Where is he? Did he abandon his useless old man and the sect when the situation turned against him? Faced with a barrage of insults, even the best temper couldn't withstand it, especially since Tang Hao's temper was already bad. Although he was physically disabled and his strength had decreased, if it came to a life or death struggle, even a titled elder wouldn't be a match for him. Tang Hao looked coldly at the seventh elder. This guy had been humiliating them ever since they returned to the sect. He had tolerated it all for his mistress, but he never expected this old man to push his luck. Did he think that every death in the Clear Sky sect was his and his son's fault? Tang Hao slowly stood up, a jet black hammer appearing in his hand, 9 spirit rings appearing beneath his feet, though the last red spirit ring was dim and ineffective. Haha, I didn't expect you to be so upset after a few words. Today I'm going to clean house for the sect. The seventh elder sneered, rising abruptly and summoning his own spirit. 9 spirit rings appeared beneath his feet, 2 yellow, 2 purple, and 5 black, his aura surging forth. Alright, seventh elder, the dead won't come back to life now, so stop talking. The seventh elder wanted to continue his tirade, but Tang Ming interrupted him. Sect master, what should we do now? I feel staying here won't help. Although some defeated soldiers haven't returned, they're no longer important to the overall situation. Tang Xiao's face was ashen. Sit down, all of you. The deaths of the fifth elder and over a dozen Clear Sky sect disciples had brought the sect's hatred for Tang Hao and his son to its peak. Internal and external troubles left him feeling utterly exhausted. Chapter 302. On this day, people remembered the fear of being dominated by giants. The spacious conference room fell silent at Tang Xiao's words. Tang Hao gave the seventh elder a cold look, put away the Clear Sky hammer, and slowly sat down. The seventh elder's eyes widened, and he was about to speak, but Tang Ming gave him a glare, and he snorted with some resentment. We don't need to worry about the defeated soldiers. Gather the sect disciples, abandon Antonio City, and force the Min clan to retreat. Now that Bai has fallen, they will easily become targets for the 7 treasure glazed tile school. After speaking a series of words, Tang Xiao paused. Now the only thing we can rely on is that Xingluo's overall strength is stronger than Xiandao's. Let's start implementing the fire seed plan we mentioned before. Great news. Great news. Li Sun of the 7 treasure glazed tile school single-handedly broke into the Antonio battle line and killed Bai, the patriarch of the Min clan and the 5th rank titled elder of the Clear Sky School. Among many experts of the Clear Sky School, the morning in the Xiandao Empire boiled over with this excited voice. Who is Li Sun? Someone asked in confusion. You don't know Li Sun? Didn't you watch the Continental Elite Soul Master Tournament? Some people didn't know who Li Sun was, so others quickly explained. Wow, it's him. It's only been a few years. He's grown to this level already. People always pursue instant gratification. 4 years had passed since the tournament, and most people had long forgotten the struggles of a group of young people, no matter how talented he was. But it's different for an official, a wealthy merchant, or a top-tier expert. Especially during times of war. In fact, the general public was initially bewildered by the Heaven Dao Empire's sudden attack on the Star Luo Empire. Although the later publicity about Yubei gave people a general impression, some remained hesitant, mainly due to concerns about the risks of war. But as reports of victory arrived, the ideology within the empire quickly shifted. People saw the potential for profit, the shadow of victory, and realized that the Star Luo Empire and the Haoshan sect were nothing special after all. In an instant, Li Sun's name became known to the masses. Every academy was publicizing the event, and every student was filled with excitement, eager to rush to the front lines and begin their own chapter. Meanwhile, the various vassals of the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School were also restless. I didn't expect Li Sun to become so strong after 4 years, Ho Wu murmured, her eyes sparkling. Yes, I really don't know how he cultivated. I'm only level 58, Shui Binger also found it unbelievable. No, I have to go to the front lines now, Feng Xiaoshan said, unable to sit still any longer, and stood up abruptly. The 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School did not force vassals like Gai Shilong to participate in the war between Yuandao and Xingluo. The main principle was that they could leave or stay as they pleased. Blindly suppressing them would only have the opposite effect. Only when people saw the benefits would they be willing to go without hesitation. This was the result of internal discussions within the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School. Tiandao Imperial Palace. It was not yet time for the morning meeting, but the ministers were already waiting in front of the council hall. Qian Renxue and Ning Fengzi ignored the outside disturbances and instead analyzed the consequences of this victory. Teacher, I never imagined my junior brother had grown to this extent. Qian Renxue gently placed the letter on the table, her expression a mixture of joy, melancholy, and a sense of urgency. Although she was undergoing the divine examination, she would occasionally return from Wuhan City, and she hadn't expected to receive this news upon her return. A sudden feeling of anxiety welled up within her. Qian Renxue suddenly longed to return to Wuhan City to complete the divine examination. She had already wasted many years, and she couldn't let things continue like this. I'm also surprised by Xiao Sun's growth. Hey. It seems like he's still this age in my memory. Ning Fengzi smiled and gestured to his chest. He felt a surge of pride and joy, a feeling he hadn't even experienced when he wiped out the Blue Dot Tyrant sect, because he saw the true future of the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School. It seemed that Rongrong and Xiao Sun's matter should also be put on the agenda. As for Zhu Qing, Ning Fengzi's fingers tapped aimlessly on the table, then he hesitated slightly. It seemed he needed to find an opportunity to ask Rongrong about it. Teacher, I'll be returning to Spirit City soon. I'll leave the affairs of Heaven Dao to you. Qian Renxue suddenly spoke, breaking Ning Fengzi's reverie. Of course, Your Majesty, please rest assured. Ning Fengzi snapped out of his reverie, a smile playing on his lips. The Heaven Dao Empire was functioning normally now. Whether Qian Renxue held the position or not was irrelevant. By the way, Your Majesty, do you know the Pope's current situation? Ning Fengzi asked abruptly as Qian Renxue prepared to leave. Since the war between Heaven Dao and Star Luo began, he had worried more than once about Bibi Dong exerting pressure, but so far, there had been no news from the Spirit Hall, which made him uneasy. A matter is best resolved when it's brought to the surface. Schemes hidden in the shadows only send chills down one's spine. Qian Renxue paused upon hearing the name Bibi Dong. She hasn't seen anyone since she went into seclusion. Teacher, don't worry about her. If anything happens, I'll have Grandpa intervene. As her strength increased and the Heaven Dao Empire grew stronger, Jin Daoliu's attitude also changed. He no longer prioritized Bibi Dong's decisions as he had in previous years. If Bibi Dong tries to manipulate him again, he's sure his grandfather won't stand idly by. Unlike the bustling sounds of Yuandao in the early morning, Antonio City was now like a taut thread, the atmosphere oppressive to the extreme, on the verge of collapse. Li Sun and Poison Douluo stood in midair, looking at the trembling Star Luo soldiers on the city wall. Grandpa Douluo, shall we go or shall we go? Poison Douluo smiled, gesturing for Li Sun to look at the 150,000 strong army behind him. You go. These soldiers need encouragement right now. I'm afraid you can't break through this wall. Haha. Douluo narrowed his eyes and chuckled. If you can, then you go. Hearing the teasing, Douluo put his hands behind his back, not annoyed. I'll go. How can I let the three grandfathers do it? Seeing the two bickering, Li soon chuckled and smoothed things over for the two old men. He was just curious about the rumor. Wanting to see for himself whether a titled or god-level expert could break through the wall, he didn't want to offend anyone's pride. 8 spirit rings appeared one after another beneath his feet, 1 yellow, 2 purple, 2 black, and 3 red. To boost morale, Li soon didn't rush to use his skills, but simply hovered quietly in the air, ensuring everyone could see him. Of course, the main reason was to show off. Sure enough, with the appearance of the 3 bright red spirit rings, the nearly 150,000 strong army immediately stirred, their hearts filled with shock, exclaiming "Holy crap!" repeatedly. Even the surrounding air seemed to chill. Li soon, with a shout, the 150,000 strong army chanted Li Soon's name in unison, the shouts growing louder with each resounding movement. Influenced by this momentum, and seeing Li Soon hovering in the sky, the soldiers on the Star Luo city wall paled. Many of them had already heard from the routed soldiers about what was happening at the front. Why hasn't the Haoshan sect appeared yet? Do they want us to resist such a powerful figure? A terrified voice suddenly rang out, jolting everyone awake. Run! Run! Someone started it, and soon more and more soldiers rushed towards the city wall, creating a massive congestion and trampling, all in an effort to escape as quickly as possible. True martial soul body, true thousand hands, with a calm voice, the sky darkened abruptly. People looked up in confusion and witnessed a scene they would never forget. A colossal Buddha, about 500 or 600 meters tall, with 1,000 hands on its back, overlooked the earth, while the 60-meter-high city wall stood like a threshold. On this day, the fear of colossal beings ingrained in people's genes was awakened. Chapter 303 Dallin, time to take your medicine. Antonio, as the capital city of a province, boasts infrastructure and a population far exceeding that of ordinary cities, second only to major capitals. Yet, this city of hundreds of thousands fell into a brief silence. The nearly 60-meter-high city walls, seemingly insurmountable to ordinary people, appeared as mere thresholds compared to the over 500-meter-tall Buddha statue. Fear gripped the hearts of everyone who saw the Buddha overlooking the city. Moments later, as if awakened, chaos erupted throughout the city, filled with terrified screams. This emotion seemed contagious. One after another, the city, its age unknown, swarmed like an anthill. People rushed about like headless flies, and many with weak wills fainted. This is a miracle. God, please forgive our ignorance, please forgive our disrespect, someone cried out, bowing before the Buddha. This immediately inspired imitation. Though fearful, they knelt resolutely, following their leader in bowing and prostrating. Standing atop the Buddha statue, Li soon silently observed everything, a strange feeling suddenly welling up within him. Are these people planning to worship me as a god? Li soon chuckled. Isn't this stealing the faith of the angel god? It is one path, though, but I don't know if it's feasible. Currently, the only method circulating on the continent is succession to divine position. Since the Tang God King era, his family has upheld this tradition. It's like the God Realm Committee is a family business, with new and old members taking turns in office. And the Tang God King is the chairman of the God Realm Committee. However, if we push the history of Douluo Continent back further, there might be more than one method. How are divine positions created? How does one become a god? How did the first one achieve this? How did the sea god and the angel god become gods, and why do they need faith? Li soon found these various questions quite interesting. He composed himself and turned his gaze back to the city wall. Many soldiers in the city, who hadn't escaped in time, were also bowing to Li soon like the common people, praying for survival. Li soon was not a bloodthirsty person, nor did he have any interest in making fun of ordinary people. However, the city gate still had to be opened. The Buddha statue slowly extended several arms, gently striking the city gate. With a loud rumble, the thick city wall trembled slightly, and the city gate shattered instantly. It seems Tang Xiao really did lead the clear sky sector away. In the distance, Sword Douluo saw this scene and secretly lowered his guard. If I were him, I would make the same decision, and the era of the clear sky sect is coming to an end. Douluo stood behind Li soon, looking on with emotion. With a clear sky sect and the Empire's experts disappearing, the Star Luo garrison completely gave up resistance. The Heaven Dao army entered the city in single file. There was no fierce noise, nor the behavior of bandits. Before coming, Li Sun had already issued an order: anyone who disturbed the residents would be put to death. If it were before, some people might have had some ulterior motives, but with the appearance of the Buddha with clouds above its head, the soldiers' souls seemed to be purified. Each of them stood tall and proud, eyes fixed straight ahead, exuding the air of a kingly army. Above the thousands of true thousand hands, just as Li Sun was about to retract his martial soul, he caught a glimpse of a small figure hopping and skipping at the foot of a Buddha statue, waving at him. Two others accompanied her. The three-sword Douluo exchanged a glance and silently flew towards the city. Li Sun smiled, manipulating a hand to extend downwards and touch the ground. Seeing the three of them settle in his palm, he lifted them up with a thought. "Brother, this is the true form of your martial soul," Xiaogang exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with admiration. Zhu Xiaogang and Du Yan were also shocked. This was the second time the three had seen Li Sun use his martial soul's true form. The last time, because they were in the sea, they hadn't seen the full form. Previously, they had mostly seen the 60-meter-tall wooden figure. But now, compared to that, the previously awe-inspiring wooden figure seemed rather ordinary. Impressive, right? If you misbehave in the future, I'll use this trip to beat you to death. Li Sun vigorously rubbed Xiaogang's head, then suddenly had a flash of inspiration and whispered in Xiaogang's ear, "No way, you can beat me to death, even if Zhu Qing agrees." Hearing Li Sun's whisper in her ear, Xiaogang's face instantly turned red, and she shook her head like a rattled drum. "How can you be so lecherous, lecherous?" Li Sun crossed his arms and grinned mischievously. "You haven't seen what I'm really like when I'm lecherous." Zhu Xiaogang, who was originally looking at the scenery in the distance, thought about it after hearing the two of them, and her earlobes immediately turned red. Du Yan felt a pang of discomfort at the sight. The three of them had been playing together for 10 years, but since what happened on Seagoat Island, she had become an outsider and felt somewhat out of place. She was just frightened that day, but couldn't Li Sun comfort her? Du Yan pursed her lips. He sneaked into Xiaogang and Zhu Xiaokang's rooms, but left himself out. What did that mean? The Heavenly Dao Army's entry into the city didn't cause any chaos, and the residents of Antonio City gradually calmed down. That night, the city lord's mansion was brightly lit. Li Sun opened his eyes from his bed, ending his day's cultivation, and prepared to go to Xiaogang's room. Since confirming his relationship with Xiaogang and Zhu Xiaogang, the two women had been in a state of kings not seeing kings. Of course, this only applied to their residences. This made Li Sun feel uneasy. The three of them had finally developed a rift, and he didn't know when they could return to the intimate state they had when they were children, sleeping in the same room together. Changing places every day was quite tiring. Knock knock knock. Just as Li Sun was lost in thought, a soft knock on the door pulled him back to reality. The doors unlocked. Du Yan took a deep breath outside the door, then pushed it open and entered, carrying a food box. "I just had a bite outside, and I found the food at that restaurant quite delicious, so I brought some back for you." Du Yan gently closed the door, the food box accidentally bumping the latch. "Why did you think of bringing me food, Sister Yan?" Li Sun narrowed his eyes and smiled. "Why are you being so attentive? Tell me, what's up?" Du Yan raised an eyebrow, holding the food box high, feigning anger. "What, you don't want to eat? Then I'll just throw it away. I'll eat." "How can I not eat what Sister Yan brought?" Li Sun quickly reached out and took the food box, gently placing it on the table. "I just don't know what Sister Yan means by this. I'm a little uneasy." "What? Can't I come to you for a bite to eat and a chat if there's nothing wrong? Or are you afraid I'll poison you?" Du Yan opened the food box with a half-smile. She placed plates of exquisite dishes on the table and poured a glass of wine for each of them. "Poisoning?" Li Sun laughed. "Sister Yan, what do you think I am? Besides, you know I'm immune to all poisons." Du Yan's beautiful eyes widened, and she smiled lightly. "I'm relieved that you don't have any worries about that. Come, little brother Li Sun, drink this cup, and then let's talk." If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 304 Eavesdropping. The room was dimly lit, with only the clinking of glasses. The four of them had grown up together and were very close. Plus, Douguyan would occasionally tease him, so Li Sun had some peculiar feelings for her. The reason he hadn't made a move was because he saw through Douguyan's talkative nature. He wanted to see if she was as bold as she usually appeared. And just as he predicted, after the Zhu Xiuqing and Ning Rongrong incidents, Douguyan seemed to have turned into an ostrich. She stopped telling dirty jokes and didn't dare breathe hot air into his ear anymore. Was she really that scary? Li Sun wondered. However, he'd been quite busy lately and hadn't bothered to investigate further. After downing a mouthful of the spicy liquor, Li Sun felt a surge of heat, causing him to frown. Sister Yan, why did you buy such strong liquor? If I remember correctly, this should be your first time drinking, right? Douguyan chuckled, covering her mouth. You'll get used to it. This was indeed Li Sun's first time drinking alcohol, but something felt off. It was too strong. After just one sip, he felt her heat rising throughout his body. Was this some kind of alcohol? Li Sun looked at Douguyan with suspicion. Otherwise, how could he have such a noticeable reaction with his current cultivation level and physique? Come on, just eat a couple of bites of food. Douguyan realized she had been laughing a bit too freely, quickly pursing her lips and picking up her chopsticks to place a piece of salt-boiled chicken on Li Sun's plate. Alright, I guess I'm a bit naive, Li Sun chuckled, enjoying Douguyan's service, ready to see what tricks this girl was up to. However, after the second and third drinks, he truly sensed something unusual. The heat. If the heat earlier was due to his body not being used to drinking for the first time, then this was definitely a problem. At this moment, Li Sun felt his body temperature rise sharply, his heart pounding, as if an unnamed fire was spreading within him. He quickly took off his coat and then examined his internal organs. Poisoned wine? This thought flashed through Li Sun's mind, but he quickly dismissed it. Putting aside his relationship with Dougubo and his grandfather, anyone who knew he was immune to all poisons wouldn't use this method to harm themselves. Besides, his years of studying pharmacology hadn't been for nothing. Li Sun withdrew his internal examination and looked at Douguyan. Did you add something to the wine? Did Grandpa Dougu give it to you? He had just checked himself, and his condition was perfectly fine. Well, not perfectly fine. His bodily functions had been activated, putting him in a state of extreme excitement. This state of heightened activity in every cell of his body was something he could only achieve in a fight. And what could cause this state in his body wasn't poison, but only that one kind of medicine, and even ordinary medicine wouldn't work, because it would be quickly absorbed by his constitution. It must be a potent tonic specially concocted by old Deng to target him. Li Sun picked up the wine glass and examined it closely. Indeed, there was a tiny, faint yellow tinge in the wine. Looking into Douguyan's eyes, he asked, "Didn't Grandpa Dougu tell you the dosage? What are you talking about?" Douguyan blinked, forcing herself to meet Li Sun's gaze. "You'll find out what I'm talking about in a moment." Li Sun smiled, took off his clothes, and casually tossed them onto the chair beside him. "Do you remember what I said to you on Seagoat Island? What?" Douguyan's eyes darted around, avoiding Li Sun's gaze. Li Sun walked to Douguyan's side, gently placed his hand on her shoulder, and whispered in her ear, "I said, the more you provoke me, the more you'll suffer in the end." Douguyan thought of that rainy night on Seagoat Island. Her heart trembled, a tingling sensation ran through her body, and her legs tightened. Her voice trembled slightly. "You should have finished drinking, right? If there's nothing else, I'll be leaving now." She tried to get up, but Li Sun's large hand was like a steel plate. He didn't seem to exert any force, yet Douguyan couldn't stand up. Li Sun gently blew hot breath into Douguyan's ear. "You've been here so long, and you've only had 3 drinks with me, without saying anything. Why are you trying to leave like this? And you drank too. Why are you alright?" Feeling the burning breath on her ear, Douguyan shrank back. Her face instantly turned as red as a ripe peach. "How should I know? Maybe you're allergic to alcohol, is that so?" Li Sun massaged Douguyan's shoulder with one hand, while with the other, he took the wine pot from the table and examined it closely. "Oh ho, there are even special props." Caught red-handed, panic flashed in Douguyan's eyes, and she immediately felt like she was sitting on pins and needles. She tried to get up several times, but was held down. Just as she was about to speak, she felt her body lighten as she was lifted up by the waist. "Ah!" Douguyan exclaimed. Feeling the softness of the peach against her fingertips, Li Sun's eyes crinkled with a smile. Could she have run off to Zhu Xiaogang's? Ning tossed and turned in bed, unable to sleep, wondering why Li Sun hadn't come today. The thought immediately made her restless. She sat bolt upright, quickly put on her shoes, threw on a coat, and headed out the door. She was still jealous about Zhu Xiaogang, but what was done was done. Feelings existed, and she'd already been taken advantage of. Leaving in a huff would feel like a loss for her. Fortunately, the three of them had formed a tacit understanding, so things remained peaceful. That guy must have thought of this already. Thinking of this, Ning Rongrong felt annoyed, realizing she'd been tricked by Li Sun. Ning Rongrong's room was next to Li Sun's, but she didn't linger there. Instead, she went to Zhu Xiaogang's room. She secretly listened to the door, but heard nothing. It has to be said that the soundproofing in the rooms on the mainland is much better than on the island. This thought inexplicably popped into Ning Rongrong's mind. Maybe he went out on something. Ning Rongrong hesitated for a long time before knocking on the door. A moment later, she heard the door open. What's wrong, Rongrong? Zhu Xiaogang rubbed her eyes. Nothing. I just wanted to chat with you. Since you're already asleep, I'll be going, Ning Rongrong said somewhat apologetically. Zhu Xiaogang became more alert and looked at Ning Rongrong with a puzzled expression. According to their outspoken agreement, Li Sun should be in Ning Rongrong's room at this time, but his appearance at her door meant something must have happened. However, she wisely didn't say anything more and made room for him. It's nothing. I'm awake anyway. Come in and sit for a while. This made Ning Rongrong feel a little embarrassed to leave. The two entered the room and were momentarily stunned, unsure of what to talk about. Fortunately, Zhu Xiaogang was more composed and managed to steer the conversation towards cultivation, and the two gradually began to chat. This atmosphere didn't last long, as occasional faint noises drifted from next door. Though quiet, both Zhu Xiaogang and Ning Rongrong, being soul masters with considerable cultivation, noticed the anomaly. They exchanged a glance, immediately holding their breath and straining their ears. The room from which the noise was coming was Li Sun's. Gradually, the noise grew louder, and there seemed to be pleas for mercy. Be gentle, go slower, it hurts. Their expressions changed. Zhu Xiaogang, blushing, remained silent, secretly glancing at Ning Rongrong. Du Yan, Ning Rongrong, blushing, gritted her teeth. Who would have thought she'd sneak into Li Sun's room herself? Shameless. Zhu Xiaogang lowered her head and tossed her hair. Compared to them, she was indeed lacking. Chapter 305 Bibi Dong emerges from seclusion. Hulina disappears. In the Starluo Empire, Jiangxin City, a crucial frontline against the Heavenly Dao, suffered from pitifully low morale. Rumors of the Clear Sky sect abandoning Antonio City and fleeing were rampant. Tang San, hearing the discussions on both sides of the road, slowly furrowed his brow. As someone proud of his sect, this situation deeply troubled him, but the sheer number of people spreading the rumors made him uneasy. Could it be that an elder has truly perished in battle? Tang San's heart sank. While Starluo lagged behind in military equipment in the war between the two empires, a delicate balance had been achieved in high-end combat power. If an elder had indeed died, it would be a devastating blow to both Starluo and the Clear Sky sect, potentially leading to complete collapse. Suddenly, Tang San heard a familiar name and immediately listened intently. A moment later, shock and disbelief filled his face. Impossible. Compared to the rumors circulating in the streets, information from the sect was the most accurate. Without lingering, Tang San rushed towards the city lord's mansion. Compared to the desolation and gloom within the city lord's mansion, where the Clear Sky sect was located, was much better. Although the morale wasn't high, a few smiles could be seen. Ignoring the greetings and cold stares around him, Tang San went straight to the council hall without stopping. But before even entering, he heard the seventh elder's sarcastic tone towards Tang Hao. Tang Hao, contrary to his usual behavior, retorted sarcastically. Tang San stood at the door, not in a hurry to go in. Listening to the sounds inside, anger gradually rose in his heart. He hadn't expected that after he had swallowed his pride and begged for help outside, the elders of the sect would view his father this way. Clenching his fists tightly, forcing himself to calm down, Tang San's gaze gradually turned cold. If he weren't currently weak, he really wanted to teach these elders a lesson. Make these old guys apologize to his father for their disrespectful words. But it will be soon. I'm already level 79. If I complete this divine trial, I'll soon reach level 80. Tang San took a deep breath, politely knocked on the door, and hearing the voices from inside, slowly walked in. "Little San, you're finally back." Tang Xiao and Tang Hao breathed a sigh of relief upon seeing Tang San return safely. Tang San was now the hope of the Clear Sky sect's younger generation, and his safety was paramount. "Father, uncle," Tang San nodded to the two, then turned his gaze to the four elders, lingering particularly long on the seventh elder. "How good you come back looking like this. Anyone who didn't know better would think someone owed you something." As a titled expert, the seventh elder's senses were naturally extraordinary, and he instantly caught a dissatisfaction on Tang San's face. "How about it? Where are the helpers you invited?" He craned his neck, pretending to look behind Tang San. "I see you came back all by yourself, didn't you?" "As expected, neither of you, father and son, can be relied on." "Enough." Tang Hao glared fiercely, slamming his hand heavily on the table. "Even if I'm wrong, that's my own business. It has nothing to do with little San. If you speak disrespectfully again, we'll fight to the death." Tang Hao's sudden outburst caused the atmosphere in the hall to freeze. Even Tang Xiao's gaze towards the seventh elder changed. The seventh elder, never expecting Tang Hao to utter such words of annihilation, was speechless. After a moment's thought, just as he was about to retort, Tang San coldly smiled. "Who said I didn't find reinforcements? It's just that it's convenient for it to enter the city." Ignoring the seventh elder, Tang San immediately recounted the events in the starred-out Great Forest. "Although it differed somewhat from my expectations, the Azure Bull Python can still compensate for the losses suffered by the Clear Sky sect. Although BG wouldn't allow the Azure Bull Python to emerge, how could she understand the driving force behind hatred? Moreover, what he and the Azure Bull Python told were the truth. If the Starluo sect and the Clear Sky sect were defeated, who knew when Xiao Wu and Erming's revenge would be possible? What, the reinforcements you mentioned are actually 100,000-year-old soul beasts?" Everyone from the Clear Sky sect stared at Tang San in shock. After a moment, everyone seemed to realize something. Even Tang Hao looked at Tang San with a complicated expression. Silence. Although this event had a significant impact on them, the addition of a powerhouse comparable to level 96 or 97 not only compensated for the loss of the fifth elder, but also significantly boosted their combat strength. They could also serve as backup spirit rings. This thought arose in many people's minds at that moment. Tang Xiao remained silent for a long time before suddenly bursting into laughter. "Good, with such assistance, our next plan should be changed." Tang Xiao said a lot of things, but Tang San only remembered the words "Li soon killed the fifth elder." His mind went blank. He hadn't expected his former rival to have grown to the point of killing a titled expert. The joy of his previous strength increase vanished, replaced by intense hatred and jealousy. Tang San felt as if he were constantly living in Li Sun's shadow, unable to shake it off or escape it. Hearing Tang Xiao continuously analyze the advantages and disadvantages of Li Sun's skills, Tang San memorized them all. In a secret chamber beneath the Pope's throne in Wuhan City, a giant white cocoon quietly cracked open, and Bibi Dong, completely naked, emerged. She slowly stretched her graceful body and took out clothes from her soul tool to put them on. After a long period of seclusion, she had finally passed a fifth trial of the Rakshasa god. Bibi Dong's red lips parted slightly, revealing a faint smile. Nearly 20 years of slow exploration had finally put the divine trial on track, mainly because she could understand some of it. The sixth trial is about absorbing death and negative emotions. That coincides with my expectations. Bibi Dong opened a door to the secret chamber and gracefully entered the Pope's palace. Although she had delegated authority to some people during her seclusion, there were still some matters that even trusted confidants like Chrysanthemum and Ghost Douluo dared not handle casually. Bibi Dong reviewed the recent major and minor events on the table, her brows furrowing more and more tightly. Especially when she saw the recent battle between Heaven Dao and Starluo, anger ignited within her. She hadn't expected Qian Renxue and Ningfengzi to actually dare to make trouble while she was in seclusion. Damn it, Bibi Dong threw the documents in her hand onto the table, her mind racing with deductions. She had always been wary of the 7 treasure glazed tile school, mainly because Ningfengzi was too clever. If he hadn't already submitted, Bibi Dong wouldn't have hesitated to wipe them out. We can't let them continue like this. In the current situation, the Heaven Dao Empire had a high chance of winning, but it wasn't in her own interest. Because both the divine trial and her ultimate plan were inseparable from war. If Heaven Dao were allowed to annex Starluo like this, the continent might experience a brief period of peace. then it would escalate into internal conflict within the spirit hall. And with Qian Renxue's temperament, she would absolutely not give me the power of heaven Dao. It seemed it was time to go out and explore. Bibi Dong slowly walked out of the hall, and upon seeing Chrysanthemum Douluo, casually asked, "Has Nana returned?" Chrysanthemum Douluo's heart skipped a beat upon hearing the question, but he still answered truthfully, "Your Majesty, there has been no news of Hulina since she entered the city of slaughter. It's been over 2 years already, and she still hasn't returned." Chapter 306 When I'm sleepy, here's a pillow. "Yes, Your Majesty." Chrysanthemum Douluo lowered his head, avoiding eye contact with Bibi Dong. "I sent people to stake out the city of slaughter, but we haven't seen him yet." Bibi Dong's heart skipped a beat. Compared to the complex emotions she felt about her relationship with Qian Renxue and her daughter, her disciple Hulina undoubtedly carried a part of her emotional burden. Although they weren't related by blood, at certain moments, she regarded Hulina as her own child. Boom! Without any hesitation, cracks appeared in the ground, and Bibi Dong soared into the sky, flying towards the city of slaughter at an extremely fast speed. Outside Antonio City, the Heavenly Dao army was marching towards Junction City in an orderly fashion, like a long dragon stretching as far as the eye could see. At the very front of the procession, a luxurious and spacious carriage was moving slowly. Li Sun leaned against the soft cushions, listening to the latest intelligence about Junction City. After a long silence, Bon Douluo finally closed the letter and slowly spoke. "Grandpa Bon, is the news true?" Bon Douluo glanced at the coded message on the letter. "It's true. It was sent personally by the manager of Kibao Pharmaceutical in Junction City, Manager Wu." "That's him." Thinking of that plump figure, Li Sun smiled. "I haven't paid attention to this matter for the past few years. It's been several years, and the sect hasn't mentioned transferring him back. He's a talented person. It would be a pity to transfer him back." Douluo rubbed his chin, clicking his tongue with a smile. "What do we do next?" Bon Douluo asked, looking at the people in the carriage. They had fought against the Azure Bull Python before. If it weren't for wanting to leave it as a spirit ring for Li Sun, they would have killed it and taken its spirit bone back in the starred out Great Forest. Now that they had just broken the balance with the Clear Sky sect and were preparing for a rapid advance, they didn't expect this spirit beast to appear and cause trouble at this time. "Grandpa Bon, this is good news." Li Sun had a different idea. "I should be breaking through to level 90 in the next couple of days, which is exactly when I need a spirit ring. Isn't it perfect timing for it to come out of the starred out Great Forest?" The somewhat empty carriage fell silent for a moment. A moment later, Poison Douluo's eyes lit up. "Haha, that's right." Sword Douluo and Bone Douluo exchanged a glance, realizing the situation. Compared to the currently dangerous starred out Great Forest, the Clear Sky sect plus the Azure Bull Python was much easier to deal with. But since the Azure Bull Python has come out, does that mean that the spirit beasts of the starred out Great Forest have reached a cooperation agreement with the Star Luo Empire? There's good news, but we must also prepare for the worst. Sword Douluo pondered for a moment. "You know, from ancient times to the present, this is the first time that a non-transformed spirit beast has appeared in a human kingdom and reached a cooperation agreement with humans." Hearing this, Li Sun instantly went through the list of spirit beasts in the starred out Great Forest in his mind. Sword Douluo's words made sense. Once something like this started, it wouldn't end easily. If it were just the Azure Bull Python, that would be fine. But if it were a soul beast like Xiaogang or the Demon King, which are 400,000 to 500,000 years old, it would be troublesome. Moreover, there's also the beast Gaudi Dawn and the Silver Dragon King beneath the starred out Great Forest. Let's leave the Silver Dragon King aside for now. He's probably recovering from injuries, and it'll take tens of thousands of years to heal. But Dawn is a huge problem. Li Sun couldn't determine whether this guy was an 800,000 or 900,000-year-old soul beast, but one thing was certain. Dawn combined with the Dragon God Claw was comparable to a demigod. In this era, there were no soul spirits, no soul cores, and no battle armor, so Soul Master's strength was much lower. Each of these soul beasts was enough to give everyone a run for their money. "Grandpa Sword, let the army continue forward. Let's go take a look first. If things really went in the worst possible direction, then they'd have to reconsider. But if it was just the Azure Bull Python that came out on its own, then they could only thank nature for its bounty." Although the Azure Bull Python was a bit younger, it was still usable. After all, it was a 100,000-year-old soul beast containing dragon blood. Over the past few years, The killing city has changed dramatically, transforming from a dilapidated town into a county-level city. While its size has stopped increasing due to the Heavenly Dao and Star Luo wars, the population has surged. However, it's not as idyllic as the outside world portrays it. Although it's a haven for criminals, many die daily. Some, however, have grown accustomed to it over time. Looking down from the sky, Bibi Dong could still vaguely discern a familiar silhouette of the town. Her spiritual power spread out, sweeping across the area like a tidal wave, and soon she found the entrance to the killing city. Bibi Dong landed on the ground, killing anyone who dared to approach. This was the rule of this place. Treading on blood, she descended without further hindrance or harassment, and soon passed through the dark city gate. The King of Slaughter seemed to sense her arrival. An envoy in a cheongsam was already waiting. "Your Excellency, the King of Slaughter requests your presence." Bibi Dong merely glanced at him and ignored him, heading straight for the inner city. Along the way, ragged, withered-faced fallen souls were everywhere. However, when these people saw the King of Slaughter's envoy beside Bibi Dong, they all made way for her. Looking at the dense crowd, Bibi Dong felt a pang of doubt. Compared to when she first arrived, why were there so many people here? As she entered the inner city, she felt an even greater sense of unease. While not as densely populated as the outer city, the inner city still had a considerable number of people. What's going on? Bibi Dong's eyes sharpened instantly. With Nana's talent, with so many people in the inner city, she should have already accumulated 100 victories. Why hasn't she left yet? Could it be, thinking of that worst-case scenario, an invisible killing intent emanated from Bibi Dong? If Nana dies here, this place will disappear before the world. What do you want here? The King of Slaughter, seated high on its throne, warily eyed Bibi Dong below. It wasn't just Bibi Dong's strength that made it react this way, but also the chilling aura emanating from her. Having relied on the City of Slaughter for survival, it knew exactly what that aura was, and it didn't want to clash with her unless absolutely necessary. What happened to the people I brought last time? Bibi Dong's expression was icy, though standing below the steps, her aura was even stronger than that of the King of Slaughter on his throne. The King of Slaughter was immediately annoyed, but considering the thriving City of Slaughter, it held back. 100 victorious expert was a minority. Although the population of the City of Slaughter had surged in recent years, only a handful had emerged. Moreover, the path of hell had been almost completely destroyed. Generally, entering it would only mean waiting to die. After a moment's careful recollection, he sensed with his mental power, "You brought a little girl, right? She's still alive, but she's currently on the road to hell. How long has she been inside?" Bibi Dong's heart, which had been hanging in suspense, relaxed. The King of Slaughter calculated, it should be about 3 months. 3 months, Bibi Dong was taken aback. Achieving 100 victories in less than 2 years was faster than she had been, but the length of time she'd been on the road to hell was problematic. "Open the road to hell. I'm going in." Bibi Dong's tone brooked no argument. "Aren't you going a bit too far?" The King of Slaughter could no longer contain his anger. His gaze turned icy, fixed on Bibi Dong as if he were about to devour her. Bibi Dong remained silent, her powerful aura spreading outwards. Chapter 307. Since it loves to join in the fun so much, its power, its immense energy at level 99 was in no way weaker than Bibi Dong's. The two auras clashed in the air, and Bibi Dong's eyes narrowed. Normally, she might have hesitated to engage, but now her only concern was her disciple's safety. After a long while, just as their battle was about to erupt, the King of Slaughter's aura suddenly weakened. The King of Slaughter sensed a weakness. And that weakness was the Slaughter City. Everything here was thriving. If it fought the other, it might destroy this place. "Considering you're a god of slaughter, I'll make an exception this time," it said, its voice still harsh despite its weakened aura. The slaughter domain was the accumulated power of a soul master through constant slaughter, refined from the Hell Road. It could open the gate, but it would consume offerings. But the City of Slaughter still had some reserves. "Go to the outer city and bring 100 men, the King of Slaughter gestured to the messenger. The latter half of the road to hell. Hulina wandered through the red mist, crying and laughing. She couldn't remember how long she had been here. Her food was long gone. If it weren't for a stretch of bat corpses and endless blood along the way, she probably wouldn't have made it this far. So this is the road to hell? The name is quite fitting. Hulina wept, but a strange smile appeared on her face. She felt uncomfortable when she first entered this red mist, but now she was somewhat used to it. She looked up at the opening diagonally above. Hulina could sense that it was the end of the road to hell. But the path ahead was blocked. At that height, even if she tried her best, she couldn't reach it. La la, la, Hulina hummed softly, trying to maintain her cheerfulness, and casually found a spot to take a bat from her soul tool and began to deal with it. Nana, suddenly, a voice that Hulina knew all too well appeared in her ear. However, Hulina seemed not to hear, continuing to focus on her own affairs. Tap tap, with a crisp footstep, Bibi Dong stopped in front of Hulina, her heart clenching at the sight of her. Nana, I've come to take you. Hulina glanced up, feeling that today's hallucination seemed a little different. But she saw her teacher several times a day here, and she had grown somewhat accustomed to it. Suddenly, a warm hand gently stroked her cheek. Nana, I've come to take you home. Hulina silently looked at Bibi Dong, and after a long while, tears streamed down her face without warning. A moment later, a sob escaped her lips in the empty hell road. Teacher, is it real? The stars twinkled, the night sky cold and desolate. A narrow streak of light flashed past. This was Li Sun's first time stepping onto Sword Douluo's flying sword in 6 years. Although it still served as a windbreak, he was no longer afraid of the cold. Grandpa Sword, let's stop here. The streak of light abruptly stopped, slowly descending to the ground. This place was still some distance from Jinxin City, but it was enough for Li Sun. Getting any closer would be too risky. He unleashed his spiritual power, projecting it forward. What was originally pitch black night became light daytime in Li Sun's mind. He could even clearly see the small movements of the soldiers on the city walls. Nothing. Li Sun sensed something was amiss. He hadn't spotted the azure bull python, nor had he observed any other soul beasts. Could it be in the city? This thought flashed through his mind, but he quickly dismissed it. These soul beasts were enormous, the largest being the azure bull python, which was already 100 meters long. While humans, as predators, wouldn't harbor much animosity towards soul beasts were different. Hunted for countless years to obtain soul rings, these soul beasts, who hadn't chosen to transform, harbored hatred for humans that, if not ingrained in their genes, would never become intimately close to humans upon first contact. Li Sun didn't doubt the source of the information, because Manager Wu wouldn't pass on such news without reason. Seeing that Li Sun hadn't moved for a while, Sword Douluo instantly understood. Xiao Sun, could it be that the soul beast has only reached a preliminary cooperation with Xingluo, but hasn't implemented it yet? Possibly, but we can't put all our hopes on this. If we let our guard down, a sudden attack from the soul beast could cause us losses. Li Sun took to the air. He originally intended to get closer to Jinxin City, but a sudden thought flashed through his mind, and he quickly looked around. With the azure bull python's enormous size, hiding in the city would inevitably damage buildings during combat, and the wilderness was undoubtedly the best place for it to operate. Xiaogang, let's get to work. With the arrival of reinforcements, Li Sun's spiritual power suddenly surged, flowing outwards like a tidal wave. In a short while, Li Sun discovered traces of some giant creatures roaming on a mine southwest of Jinxin City. Jinxin City, as a steel capital, had many mineral veins around it. Although there was mining, due to the limitations of the era, it hadn't been extensively destroyed. Although there were many cave entrances on the mountain, the vegetation was plentiful, and from the air, it was a lush green landscape. However, one mine entrance, hidden by tree branches, was clearly different from the others. Not only was it enormous, but it also showed signs of recent damage. If Li Sun hadn't used his mental energy to investigate, it would have been easily overlooked. He withdrew his excess mental energy and focused on one point. Xiaogang, could you hide the fluctuations of your mental energy a bit? Call me brother. Xiaogang Ice Silkworm's lazy voice entered Li Sun's mind. Do whatever you want from now on, I'll assist you from the side. His mental energy slowly probed into the mine, and soon, a creature resembling a bull's face with two horns appeared in Li Sun's mind. Continuing to probe deeper, he found only the azure bull python inside. Found it? After his mental energy had explored all the surrounding mines, Li Sun felt a sense of relief. As long as it wasn't the group of soul beasts from the starred-out Great Forest all coming at him, that was good. They've chosen a good spot for a sneak attack. After a quick scan of the terrain, Li Sun realized what the Clear Sky sect and the azure bull python were planning. Although the mine was high, the trees provided cover, and it was located to the side of Jinxin City's gate. If the Heavenly Dao and Star Luo clashed, The Azure Bull Python's sudden attack could potentially yield unexpected results. The Clear Sky sect probably anticipated that the Heavenly Tao would gain intelligence about the Azure Bull Python, hence this move. It served two purposes: concealment for deterrence and practicality. This wasn't the first time Li Sun had encountered the Azure Bull Python. It had been present during both of his soul ring absorptions. Since it loved to join in the fun, let it experience it firsthand this time. It would also disrupt the Clear Sky sect's future plans. As for whether this would provoke retaliation from other soul beasts, Li Sun didn't think a mere gatekeeper of the starred out Great Forest would. Even if something happened, as a subordinate department of the Spirit Hall, Jin Douluo and Bibi Dong should have a responsibility to stand up for them. They were quite free all day. Especially Jin Douluo, he hadn't even seen him fight yet. It would be a waste not to use such a powerful expert as a sacrifice. Li Sun already knew that Qian Renxue was undergoing a divine trial, but he didn't know which trial she was in. Bibi Dong was more mysterious. Although Li Sun wanted to investigate, he hadn't reached that level yet. However, all of this was due to the limitations of his strength. As long as he improved his strength, everything would be resolved. Chapter 308 Pagoda suppresses the Snake Demon. Jiangxin City's geographical location was extremely special. If it were to fall, the capital of Xingluo would be directly exposed to the Heavenly Tao army. No one in the Xingluo Empire, including the Haotian sect, had anticipated the Heavenly Tao Empire's decisive and swift attack. Faced with their eroded territory and retreating army, the Xingluo Emperor had no choice but to transfer all his strongest warriors to Jiangxin City. The descendants of the Dianzhu families were of paramount importance. The Haotian sect, with its continuous reinforcements and the addition of the Azure Bull Python, also saw a significant boost in morale. The people of Jiangxin City were pessimistic about the upcoming war, but seeing that the Haotian sect hadn't fled, their anxiety gradually subsided. The Heavenly Tao army was marching rapidly. If all went according to plan, they would arrive here the night after tomorrow. Haotian sect's titled experts and scouts from the Min clan constantly patrol the skies. The reports from the front lines from the soldiers who had escaped from Antonio City were gradually drowned out by the heavy workload. One day later, Li Sun and his group, observing the bustling preparations for the Heaven Tao attack in Jiangxin City, did not disturb them. Instead, they circled around and slowly approached a mining area. Realizing that the Clear Sky sect planned to use the Azure Bull Python for a sneak attack, to avoid unnecessary losses, he and Sword Douluo immediately halted the army's advance after returning. Then, leading Bone Douluo and Poison Douluo, they secretly returned. This time, not only the three titled Soul Masters, but Li Sun also brought Ning Rongrong. However, she wasn't there to assist, but rather to control her. Soul Masters cannot move while absorbing soul rings, and aside from the fact that he was almost at level 90, openly absorbing the Azure Bull Python in Jiangxin City was unrealistic. Therefore, capturing it alive became the only option. The only difficulty in this operation was how to take the Azure Bull Python away. After returning, Li Sun and Sword Douluo conducted a simple analysis of the current situation. If he wasn't mistaken, the Azure Bull Python had been brought out of the Heaven Tao Great Forest by Tang San, and only Tang San possessed this advantage. In truth, Li Sun had to thank Tang San. If Tang San hadn't brought the Azure Bull Python out, and without using the Ice Emperor beforehand, obtaining a 9th spirit ring would have been quite troublesome for him. Given the current situation, if absolutely necessary, he might have to go to the Sun-Moon continent. However, this wasn't 10,000 years later, and he didn't know much about that place, only that there was an evil eye tyrant there with a cultivation level of around 700,000 years. Moreover, the sea journey was long, and he didn't plan to go unless absolutely necessary. To avoid detection by the Clear Sky sect, the group discreetly walked through the mountains and forests, steadily approaching the mine. The Heavenly Dream Ice Silkworm was also working diligently, constantly using its spiritual power to conceal their movements. The title was a crucial turning point for Spirit Masters. Li Sun's successful advancement meant it was one step closer to godhood. Gradually, the cave entrance came into view. The group dispersed, slowing their pace, and inching closer. Perhaps waiting for the Heaven Tao army to arrive. The Azure Bull Python, to avoid surprise, remained hidden in the cave, showing no intention of revealing itself. Let's go. Bone Douluo and Poison Douluo gestured to Sword Douluo. The Azure Bull Python was powerful, and soul beasts were known for their tenacious vitality. Unless it was a one-hit kill, whoever made the move would inevitably cause a huge commotion. This place was very close to Jiangxin City, and if the two of them couldn't quickly and severely injure the Azure Bull Python, it might cause unforeseen circumstances. Even if Bone Douluo was unwilling to admit that Sword Douluo was now stronger than him, he wouldn't act recklessly at this time. However, when he saw the smile on Sword Douluo's face and the look in his eyes, he immediately regretted it. Grandpa Sword, wait a moment. Just as Sword Douluo was about to make a move, Li Sun sent a telepathic message. Facing the puzzled looks, Li Sun pointed to himself and Ningrongrong, then pointed towards the cave. The three thought for a moment and instantly understood. They originally thought that Li Sun had brought Ningrongrong here to prevent everyone from being surrounded and to use her to amplify or control the Haoshan sex experts, but they forgot that the Azure Bull Python could also be controlled. Poison Douluo had mentioned this skill to them before. Back when Li Sun was around level 50, he used this soul fusion technique to subdue Yu Xiaogang, Liu Erlong, and Flander. While Yu Xiaogang was insignificant, Liu Erlong and Flander were soul saints at over level 70. Now, Li Sun was level 89, and Ningrongrong had reached level 73, so the power was naturally incomparable. Seeing everyone's attention focused on her and Li Sun, Ningrongrong smiled broadly. Li Sun had already told her about it before they arrived, but to give Sword Douluo and the other two a surprise, she had asked him to keep it a secret. She stretched out her hand, and the 9 treasure glazed tile pagoda shone brightly, 7 soul rings appearing, 2 yellow, 2 purple, and 3 black, and slowly extended towards Li Sun amidst the feigned amazement of the three. The true 1,000 hands appeared, the 9-story pagoda slowly rotating before falling into the Buddha statue's hand. A colossal, ethereal Buddha, hundreds of meters tall, appeared behind the two, its 9 colored lights swirling and softening the otherwise unsettling countenance, lending a touch of compassion. Buddha holding a pagoda, a compassionate crossing, Li Sun and Ningrongrong murmured softly, but a grand echo reverberated from within the 1,000-handed Buddha statue, resounding like a great bell throughout the cosmos. As the words faded, the 9-tiered pagoda in the 1,000-handed Buddha's hands vanished instantly, reappearing above the Azure Bull Python. Without damaging the mine or creating a loud noise, the 9-tiered pagoda seemed to pierce through the thick rock, enveloping the Azure Bull Python. The Azure Bull Python stared in horror. It had been awakened by the resounding sound, but by then the pagoda was already above its head, and it was too late to escape. Streams of energy were exhaled from its mouth, disappearing into nothingness. The once dark mine vanished, replaced by a void filled with stars. Seeing its attacks were ineffective, the Azure Bull Python began to survey its surroundings. It coiled its 100-meter-long body into a defensive stance. Knowing this was a human skill, it wasn't worried. Even without the initiative, it was still capable of fighting. However, the expected attack didn't strike. Just as the Azure Bull Python was wondering what was happening, the stars began to spin, and a suction force and dizziness acted upon it simultaneously. Time rapidly rewound, and the Azure Bull Python was transported back to key moments in its memory. Erming, covered in blood, lay before it, while it faced pursuit from powerful humans. Memory surged, and the Azure Bull Python succumbed. The commotion was a bit too much, Li Sun said, somewhat dissatisfied. It's alright, even if I intervened, it would be the same, and it might even make the Azure Bull Python struggle a little longer. Sword Douluo gazed towards Jiangxin City, but the next step is the most crucial. Bone Douluo and Poison Douluo were also on high alert. Now, whether in Jiangxin City or the starred out Great Forest, one must consider unforeseen circumstances before taking action. However, compared to those soul beasts, the Haoshan sect, whom they have already fought several times, is much easier to deal with. Who dares to act so presumptuously near the Haoshan sect? Angry shouts echoed from within Jiangxin City. Chapter 309 Azure Bull Python Whip. The sound emitted by Li Sun and Ningrongrong's fusion skill was incredibly loud. Sometimes, he even wondered if martial spirits possessed intelligence, emphasizing things the less there were. Watching the figures flying out of Jiangxin City, he pulled Ningrongrong behind him. Something's happened at the mine. Let's go first. Howdy, you organize men in the city to come with us. Tang Xiao stood above Jiangxin City, watching the spire of the mine, then led 4 elders towards Li Sun's location. Tang Hao, hearing this, was about to act when Tang San grabbed him. Father, the situation is getting worse. Since they dared to make such a commotion, they must have been prepared. This is a battle between titled masters. Your strength has been damaged, so don't participate. Tang Sam stood on the city wall, carefully scanning the mine with his purple demon eye. The sound from that side had only lasted a brief moment before fading away, making him think more deeply. His original intention was to have the Azure Bull Python reverse the Clear Sky sect's disadvantage in high-end combat power, but the death of the fifth elder shattered his previous plans. The worst fear was that the Azure Bull Python was now powerless to resist, making it futile for the Clear Sky sect to arrive now. Thinking of this, Tang San's expression shifted between light and shadow, his hand unconsciously tightening. Had he brought the Azure Bull Python out of the starred-out Great Forest and made things easier for Li Sun? Feeling the force on his arm, Tang Hao's mind raced, and he instantly understood the situation. Little Sen, although my strength has declined, in terms of combat power, even a titled general wouldn't be a match for me. Moreover, if I don't appear now, the seventh elder will definitely hold a grudge afterward. Father, haven't you seen what we've experienced in the sect over the past 2 years? Tang San didn't let go, his gaze carrying a hint of ambiguity. Going is fine, but go slowly. Based on the ideas Tang Hao had always instilled in him, he originally harbored many aspirations for the Clear Sky sect, the #1 sect on the continent, the #1 weapon spirit on the continent, immense strength. Each of these was a source of pride for him. However, all of this had lost its allure after his and his father's long stay within the sect. In recent years, the Clear Sky sect had suffered repeated defeats, yet the blame was constantly placed on them, which fueled his growing dissatisfaction and disappointment. In such a sect, even if he and his father died, people would likely only applaud. Since that was the case, why not treat himself as a passerby, a temporary sanctuary for growth? Tang Hao understood the deeper meaning, his inner struggle clearly visible on his face. After a moment of contemplation, he nodded. Soon after, the experts of Jiangxin City mobilized, rushing towards the mine. The Star Luo army also filed out. Tang Xiao stood in midair, his aura constantly intertwining with his sword Douluo domain. Shenzhen, although I guessed you would come, I didn't expect to meet you in this way. He knew the Azure Bull Python couldn't be kept secret, although it was concealed. Its primary purpose was to intimidate the Heavenly Dao and the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School. The Clear Sky sect and the Star Luo Empire desperately need visible fighting power. Only when their visible strength is balanced will the Heavenly Dao Empire be wary and dare not launch an attack easily. He just hadn't expected that Sword Douluo and his group would dare abandon their army to launch a sneak attack on the Azure Bull Python in Jiangxin City. This was the Star Luo Empire's current defensive position. Tang Ming and the 3 Clear Sky sect elders stood solemnly behind Tang Xiao, waiting for reinforcements and for the Azure Bull Python to escape. All of them were titled cultivators with decades of experience, and they immediately recognized a pagoda as a controlled type skill. Because at this moment, the multicolored pagoda was gradually becoming illusory. Time ticked by. They were waiting for the effect of this soul skill to wear off, waiting for the Azure Bull Python to launch a counterattack. That would be their turn to act. Sword Douluo, holding the 7-kill sword, chuckled softly. I heard that the ferocious beast king of the starred-out Great Forest has appeared in Jiangxin City, so I came to see for myself. I apologize for the intrusion. Bone Douluo and Poison Douluo had also found their opponents. Hearing this, Tang Xiao knew that saying anything now was useless, and tightened his grip on the Clear Sky hammer. Time ticked by, and compared to a few years ago, Li Sun and Ning Rongrong's martial soul fusion skill lasted much longer. 3 minutes. Although they didn't know what the Azure Bull Python felt inside the tower, those outside felt as if each day was an eternity. Li Sun's soul power circulated constantly. The Clear Sky sect was waiting for the soul skill's effect to wear off, and they were waiting too. This skill had temporarily controlled all 3 parties. As the last wisp of light disappeared, a point of starlight appeared at the top of the tower, and then the entire 9 treasure glazed tile pagoda transformed into specks of starlight and floated into the air. At that moment, everyone present moved. Soul rings lit up, and skills emerged one after another. By the Azure Bull Python some recovery time, although Tang Xiao didn't know the pagoda's effect, his rich experience made him instinctively understand what to do. The Clear Sky hammer in his hand rapidly grew larger, and he hurled it towards Li Sun. Soaring strike. Having experienced their previous encounter, the Clear Sky sect members already knew the threat Li Sun posed. Although Tang Xiao had been confronting Sword Douluo, his mind was mostly on Li Sun. However, Li Sun had anticipated this situation. Facing the whistling clear sky hammer, his left hand rested on Ninjutsu's waist, and his right arm flashed with his soft bone rabbit soul bone, activating his teleportation skill. He instantly disappeared from the spot, carrying Ninjutsu. Boom! Just as the two disappeared, the clear sky hammer slammed into the ground with unparalleled force, creating a huge crater. Amidst the flying dirt and scattering rocks, a colossal figure appeared, standing like a majestic mountain on the earth. Be careful, keep your distance. Seeing the enormous, sky-covering Buddha statue, Tang Xiao's expression turned grim. Several elders of the Haoshan sect were startled. While fighting Sword Douluo and the others, they vigilantly observed the movements of the thousand-handed Buddha. What is that? Many people in Jiangxin City noticed the enormous figure that suddenly appeared in the distance and exclaimed in surprise. This immediately attracted more attention. So what those deserters who ran back said was true, someone murmured. On the city wall, Tang San, who was observing the situation, had an ashen face and his hands gripped the bricks tightly. Unconsciously, the originally hard bricks were scratched with white marks. This is impossible. Thud! Tang San's lips trembled, his face turned pale and then red, and his eyes showed unconcealed pain. He clenched his fists and slammed them hard against the wall. What is this? How am I supposed to defeat him? Xiao Wu, tell me, how am I supposed to defeat him? How can I defeat him to avenge myself? At this moment, he even hated his purple demon eye. If he hadn't seen Li Sun standing on that enormous Buddha statue, he wouldn't be in so much pain and despair. Tang Hao was in no better shape. He had heard about this at the sect meeting and knew that the elders were discussing countermeasures, but only when he truly stood at the foot of the giant Buddha could he feel his own insignificance. Tang Hao patted Tang San's shoulder and said with difficulty, "Little San, if you're not confident in resisting, then endure it." After saying that, he sighed deeply, just like he had done back then. When Tang Xiao focused his attack on Li Sun, Sword Douluo's attack had already arrived. However, just as it was about to hit Tang Xiao, Tang Ming dodged and blocked it. The 6th and 7th elders of the Clear Sky sect went after Bon Douluo, while the 3rd elder went after Douluo. In that short moment, the two sides were locked in battle. Li Sun stood atop the True Thousand Hands, seeing the reactions of the Clear Sky sect elders. He was aware of their wariness towards him. Unless one possessed absolute strength or was a fool, no one was willing to confront such a behemoth head-on. Ninjutsu stood atop the thousands of hands, her arms tightly wrapped around Li Sun's waist. "Brother, am I getting in the way? It's alright, just hold on tight." Li Sun ignored the Haoshan sect members and instead manipulated a giant Buddha to reach into the mine. Boom! As the giant hand reached in, the solid mine shaft instantly expanded several times. Moments later, the azure bull python, still reeling from the illusion, was dragged out by its head. The azure bull python winced in pain, its eyes instantly regaining clarity. Seeing the giant hand gripping it, it was horrified and frantically thrashed its body. Unexpectedly, several more hands gripped it tightly, then pulled it, causing the azure bull python's body to tense up instantly. Just as it was about to retaliate, the scenery before it changed rapidly, and its head suddenly spun. At this moment, from an outsider's perspective, a colossal Buddha, blotting out the sky and bearing 1,000 hands, wielding a 100-meter-long whip, swept out with unparalleled power. Whoosh! Get out of the way! Tang Xiao gasped and shouted as he saw the Buddha statue wielding the azure bull python toward him. Chapter 310 No, we must kill the azure bull python. Boom! The sky resounded as the azure bull python, accompanied by a shockwave, grazed past Tang Xiao, causing his clothes to flutter wildly. This wasn't a soul skill or talent, but the effect of pure power. A chill ran down Tang Xiao's spine, and his expression changed drastically. The elders of the Clear Sky sect also looked grim, quickly abandoning Bone Douluo and Poison Douluo and retreating rapidly. After their last encounter with Li Sun, they had discussed their strategy. The conclusion was simply to retreat or engage in hit-and-run tactics until Li Sun's soul power was exhausted. However, the current situation presented them with a dilemma. If they retreated now, the azure bull python would undoubtedly be in danger. And without a major fighting force, the Clear Sky sect would face the same predicament as before, or even more perilous. The Buddha of the top, however, the retreat of the Clear Sky sect members did not mean that Li Sun would let them off so easily. Li Sun stood atop the True Thousand Hands, his hands clasped tightly together. Behind the Buddha, countless enormous hands suddenly extended upwards, then crashed down upon Tang Xiao. The azure bull python was also swung with great force by its foremost arms, though its primary targets were mostly the ground. Divine and demonic slash, sword Dao and dust heart, the 7-kill sword hummed, unleashing a barrage of chilling sword energy as the sword Douluo's attack hurtled towards Tang Xiao and Tang Ming. Haoshan 9 absolutes, shock technique. Tang Xiao's expression darkened. He hadn't expected the Buddha's hand summoned by Li Sun to extend so far. He swiftly retreated, a flash of black light emanating from his Haoshan hammer, deflecting the relentless onslaught of enormous hands. Haoshan true body, chaotic cloak, his 7th and 9th spirit rings lit up, instantly enlarging the Haoshan hammer. Tang Xiao's face flushed red as he used his waist and arms to spin rapidly, completing a rapid rotation in a short time. Bang! 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 The clear sky hammer swung relentlessly, smashing one massive wooden hand after another, and deflecting sword energies elsewhere. Tang Xiao, using the shockwave in his chaotic cloak, used the impact to quickly retreat from Li Sun and sword Douluo's attack range. Unexpectedly, sword Douluo and Li Sun's true target wasn't him at all. The moment Tang Xiao retreated, they changed their target. Tang Ming, a level 95 titled warrior and currently the 2nd strongest member of the Clear Sky sect, naturally received special attention. Great Sumeru hammer, exploding rings. Tang Ming's expression changed drastically. The first 6 spirit rings beneath his feet exploded simultaneously. This was the full power his body could currently unleash. He swung the hammer continuously, blocking attack after attack. Faced with a choice between a sword energy and a giant hand, he gritted his teeth and made a decision. The clear sky hammer instantly increased in size, and Tang Ming held it upright in front of him, preparing to withstand the attack of the true 1,000 hands. Bang! A fist as large as a small meteorite struck head-on, slamming heavily onto the clear sky hammer. Tang Ming's ears rang, and he watched as Shen was rapidly retreated, crashing into the Jiangxin city wall like a meteor. Boom! Cracks appeared in the sturdy city wall. Tang Ming felt his internal organs shift, and he lay in a dent in the wall, spitting out a mouthful of blood. Thank goodness, his choice was correct. If he had been hit by sword Douluo's sword energy, his injuries would likely have been much more severe. At this moment, the 3rd elder, 6th elder, and 7th elder were also in bad shape. Without the 5th elder, they were no match for Bone Douluo and Poison Douluo, and could only use the Clear Sky Protection skill, a combined attack, to defend themselves. The golden light shield rippled continuously. Seeing that Tang Xiao and Tang Ming had retreated, Li Sun and sword Douluo were about to turn their attention to this area. The 7th elder said anxiously, "Retreat first, this can't go on, I'll detonate the rings." The 3rd elder gritted his teeth, and the 4 soul rings beneath his feet shattered, unleashing a powerful aura from within. Although the Clear Sky sect's secret technique was powerful, capable of boosting strength for a short time, it had a drawback. After the effect wore off, one couldn't use soul power for 3 days. They had discussed internally that the rings should only be detonated in the most critical moments, and that there had to be a safety net in terms of personnel to avoid a vacuum period where everyone was unable to use their soul power. As their strength surged, the golden light shield formed by the 3 gradually stabilized, and Tang Xiao and Tang Ming returned with cold faces to provide support. The Clear Sky sect had already lost a 5th elder. They couldn't afford any more losses, or the Clear Sky sect would be finished. Fortunately, the 7th elder and the other 2 had already retreated some distance, and with the help of Tang Hao and Tang Ming, who had detonated the rings, they quickly escaped Li Sun's attack range. Thank goodness, Tang Ming wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth with his sleeve and breathed a sigh of relief. What's going on? I don't feel their desire to attack is strong. Retreating to a safe distance, the 7th elder took a deep breath, looking at the slowly retreating sword Douluo and the others with a puzzled expression. It hadn't been long since their last encounter, and he could sense that neither the Great Buddha nor the sword Douluo seemed to be focused on them. Tang Xiao fell into deep thought upon hearing this. Seeing Bone Douluo and Poison Douluo slowly approaching Li Sun, he suddenly realized something and his heart skipped a beat. This is bad. Their target from the beginning has been the Azure Bull Python. The attack just now was just to force us away, to prevent the attack from affecting the soul beast. We've been tricked. The elders were stunned, then their hearts tightened, and anger surged. No, we must kill the Azure Bull Python. We absolutely cannot let it fall into the hands of the 7 treasure Glazed tile school. Tang Xiao took a deep breath, gripping the clear sky hammer tightly in his hand, his knuckles turning white from the excessive force. Tang Ming and the others quickly agreed, taking a step forward, their faces grave as they looked at the azure bull python in the great Buddha's hand. They had previously discussed killing Li Sun before he reached level 90. If the azure bull python were absorbed, it would pose a huge threat to the Clear Sky sect. Looks like they've discovered it, Sword Douluo said with a light laugh, standing beside Li Sun. It's too late. Two of them have already activated their rings, and they need more time than I do, at this moment. The azure bull python had already fainted from repeatedly pounding the ground. Li Sun controlled the true thousand hands to tie the azure bull python into several sections, then used dozens of arms to protect it. Bone Douluo and Poison Douluo also stood in front of the Buddha, smiling as they looked at Tang Xiao and the others. Although he knew what to do, facing the overwhelming Buddha and the three-sword Douluo, Tang Xiao felt helpless. He gripped the clear sky hammer tightly, but couldn't move forward. Tang Ming and the third elder also looked troubled. Not to mention Li Sun's martial soul true body, even the three-sword Douluo were a difficult hurdle, and the key was that the ring activation time wouldn't last long. Poison Douluo, looking at the group that hadn't moved, stroked his beard and chuckled, "If you don't come, we're leaving." Silence. Tang Xiao gritted his teeth. He knew this was the choice the 7 treasure glazed tile school had given him. Should they stop here, or risk the loss of another elder and keep the azure bull python alive? Tang Ming pondered for a moment, then seemed to make up his mind. "Sect Master, I can hold on a little longer." The 7th elder remained silent. He was a conservative, having long advocated withdrawing from the Star Luo Empire, and always disliked such desperate measures. No need. The current outcome is only slightly worse than before the azure bull python arrived. Tang Xiao sighed. Let them go. He didn't know how long Li Sun's martial soul true body could last, but he imagined that such a massive creature would consume a terrifying amount of energy. Therefore, Li Sun wasn't included. If he activated his rings, his strength could temporarily surpass Sword Douluo, but in a prolonged battle, he certainly wouldn't have time to worry about others. Bone Douluo and Poison Douluo are also a threat. If the battle were to reach the halfway point and Tang Ming and the third elder's ring exploding technique failed, they might very well perish on the spot. As the sect leader, he dared not gamble. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 311 One Bibi Dong is enough for this world. The two sides were locked in a stalemate. The series of battles that had just taken place had been swift, and the reinforcements from Jingxin City had not yet arrived. Or rather, they hadn't expected them to arrive so quickly. The colossal thousand-handed Buddha, blotting out the sky, was a shock to everyone, and its massive 500-meter size alone was enough to make one's legs tremble. Low-level soul masters felt they couldn't defeat it. Mid to high-level soul masters knew the difference in strength, while ordinary people remembered the rumors circulating from Antonio City. Li Sun stood atop the true thousand hands, calmly watching Tang Xiao and the others. Seeing that they seemed to have no intention of stopping him any longer, he nodded slightly to Sword Douluo, manipulated the Buddha's hands to toss the azure bull python high into the air, and after 2 consecutive movements, threw it backward. The azure bull python, now curled into a ball, instantly shot out, flying back in the direction it had come from like a meteorite. Go! Retracting his martial soul true body, Li Sun picked up Ning Rongrong around the waist, choosing not to fly, but instead continuously activating the soft bone rabbit's right arm bone for rapid teleportation. Sword Douluo and his 2 companions faced Tang Xiao and the other experts, slowly flying backward, wary of a sudden attack. Only after creating a certain distance did they transform into long rainbows and speed away. Silence. Tang Xiao gritted his teeth, several times tempted to rush forward, but reason held him back. The elders of the Clear Sky sect also struggled to control their impulses. After a long while, the 7th elder said hoarsely, "Sect Master, to avoid greater losses, let's withdraw from the Star Luo Empire." Tang Xiao looked at the numerous experts who had only just arrived to reinforce them, and after much hesitation, he made his decision. Recall all the disciples of the Clear Sky sect. This was no longer a matter of sect honor, but a matter of life and death. The continent had truly changed. They had thought the Clear Sky sect's opponent was the Spirit Hall, but they hadn't expected to be so badly defeated by the 7 treasure glazed tile school. Hearing that the 7 treasure glazed tile school had joined the Spirit Hall was a joke. How could the Spirit Hall possibly benefit from the Heaven Dao Empire's rapid encroachment on the Star Luo Empire's territory? On the city wall, Tang San watched Li Sun and the others depart with resentment. Judging from your uncle's situation, that thing isn't invincible. Tang Hao patted Tang San's shoulder. Little San, what you need to do first is suppress the hatred in your heart and slowly become stronger. At this time, Tang Xiao and the others had returned, but they didn't stop, instead flying straight towards the city lord's mansion. I won't act impulsively. Tang San closed his eyes tightly, trying to forget his hatred for Xiao Wu. He had the divine trial, although the rewards weren't much, but with his devouring ability, he had a chance. The 4th trial required absorbing death and negative energy, which should be easy to complete on the battlefield. Suddenly, several streaks of light streaked across the boundless blue sky, shattering this beautiful scene. And a huge spherical creature in the middle of the streaks added a touch of incongruity. The Haoshan sex ring explosion technique is indeed unique. Able to unleash enormous potential in every critical moment, Douluo was somewhat envious, subconsciously tightening his grip on the vine. Sword Douluo and Bone Douluo shared the same sentiment. The 3 of them had clashed with the Clear Sky sect more than once recently, and if it weren't for their superior strength, they would have suffered heavy losses long ago. However, that was all. With Li Sun joining the battlefield, the balance between the 2 sides had been broken. Now, he was about to enter the ranks of those granted titles, and the 3 could imagine the Clear Sky sect's current predicament. If you like, we can ask someone about this cultivation method later. Li Sun smiled, seeing Douluo's eager expression. Douluo was somewhat tempted. That's possible, but after these 2 battles, I'm afraid the Clear Sky sect, realizing their inferiority, will hide like they did when they feared the Spirit Hall. If one were to ask about the strongest spirit on the continent, everyone would say the Clear Sky Hammer. However, the truth is that its strength lies in its secret technique and in Tang Chen's possession. Without the secret technique and the prestige Tang Chen had earned, what was so terrifying about a broken hammer? Now that the Clear Sky sect has emerged, they can't just withdraw at will. Not to mention us, even the Star Luo Empire won't let go for its own survival. If the Clear Sky sect still clings to its old ways, thinking that sealing off the mountain will avoid conflict, they're being too naive. Li Sun wrapped several more vines around the azure bull python, using the vine's properties to absorb its energy. This was a self-reinforcing property of the vines. The energy gained wouldn't be transferred to him. Besides, he didn't need it. While externally absorbed power could provide a rapid boost, it was too impure. If not properly processed, it posed a certain threat to his body. Douluo nodded, but mentioning the Spirit Hall reminded him of something. What about the Spirit Hall? The Heaven Dao Empire and the 7 treasure glazed tile school were making continuous advances within the Star Luo Empire. The Spirit Hall, however, hadn't sent any information. Even Bibi Dong seemed to have vanished into thin air. Although Qian Renxue was confident, considering the many powerful figures in the Spirit Hall, everyone still harbored some reservations. The Spirit Hall is not like the Clear Sky sect. It boasts numerous powerful figures, with over a dozen titles, and the quality of these titles was evident in the battle between Sword Douluo and Golden Crocodile. Don't worry, with Qian Renxue's current strength, Jin Daoli won't stand idly by like before. Even if Bibi Dong has any ideas, she'll have to get past Jin Daoli first. In the Pope's Palace of Spirit City, Bibi Dong rested her chin on her hand, leaning back in her chair, her brows furrowed in worry. She had rescued Hulina from the City of Slaughter half a day ago. During this time, all the healing-type spirit masters from the Spirit Hall had come to see her. However, aside from clearing the poison from Hulina's body, they were helpless against the drastic change in her personality. Perhaps spending too much time alone on the Hell Road had affected her spirit. Bibi Dong thought to herself. Having traversed the Hell Road, she naturally understood what the red mist in the latter half represented. After all, her Rakshasa god trial came from there. However, Bibi Dong did not want her disciple to become like her. One Bibi Dong is enough. Hulina doesn't need to go through all this. After a moment's thought, Bibi Dong slowly stood up and walked towards the Hall of Offerings. Nana, come with me. If there's anyone on the continent who can change this situation, it's definitely Jin Daoliu. Even if she loathes the angelic martial soul, she has to try. Oh, hearing her teacher's call, Hulina's eyes lit up, and she quickly ran forward, but she was also intimidated by Bibi Dong's aura, appearing somewhat cautious. Bibi Dong noticed this out of the corner of her eye, her heart softened, and she reached out her hand. Hulina quickly reached out and grasped it, then gave Bibi Dong a big smile. It was already afternoon, and the golden afterglow shone on the master and disciple, adding a touch of warmth to the scene. Their shadows stretched long. Chapter 312 Hypocritical and Mutual Dislike. Inside the main hall, Qian Renxue and Jin Daoliu sat facing each other, performing their daily prayers. Their relationship had improved considerably over the past year, and today was the day Qian Renxue was breaking through the third trial of the angel god. To celebrate his granddaughter's growth, Jin Daoliu had prepared a sumptuous feast, just as she had when she was a child, all her favorite dishes. Qian Renxue slowly opened her eyes, not rushing to pick up the chopsticks, but quietly waiting for Jin Daoliu to finish his prayer. Compared to herself, her grandfather was undoubtedly more devout to the angel god. "Little Zhu, you can eat first. Why worry about formalities with your grandfather?" Jin Daoliu opened his eyes, smiling, and picked up the chopsticks, placing a piece of earth-bear meat on Qian Renxue's plate. Through Zunayang Tower's continuous exploration over the years, they had discovered that soul beast meat was rich in nutrients and energy. While the effects might not be immediately apparent to soul masters, continued consumption would improve their physique. However, there has been ongoing debate in management regarding the number of soul beasts hunted in recent years, making the construction quite expensive and far beyond the reach of ordinary families. However, in the past 6 months, it has been heard that Zunayang Tower is seeking change, planning to develop a soul beast-related livestock industry. Making money is secondary, the main goal is to explore the cultivation path of soul beasts. "Grandpa, I can do it myself, you eat too." Seeing Jin Daoliu about to serve her more food, Qian Renxue moved her small bowl aside. Every meal, she ate by herself while her grandfather kept serving her food. This warmth was nice, but it also made her feel a little sorry for him. "Okay," Jin Daoliu laughed, just about to take a bite, when he heard footsteps coming from outside. He frowned and gently put down his chopsticks. Only a handful of people could enter this offering hall without being announced. Besides Xiaogang and one other person, others, although qualified, wouldn't just walk in like that. "Is there something you need?" Jin Daoliu looked at Bibi Dong and Hulina, his expression changing slightly, and asked with some confusion. Bibi Dong visited the offering hall only a handful of times, mostly only when Qian Renxue returned. But since their verbal altercation, Bibi Dong hadn't shown her face for a year. Upon entering, Bibi Dong saw the heartwarming scene of grandfather and granddaughter, her emotions momentarily complicated, but she quickly suppressed them. Coming back to her senses, facing Jin Daoliu's questioning gaze, she gently pulled Hulina close. "Nana's spirit seems to be corrupted." "I want you to take a look, teacher." "I'm fine," Hulina said anxiously. She hadn't known why her teacher had brought her to the offering hall. No one knew Bibi Dong's attitude towards the high priest better than her. Now, seeing the pleading tone in her teacher's words, Hulina felt a sudden pang of panic and heartache. And she truly was fine. Since leaving the path of hell, a voice had appeared in her mind, telling her some information about the divine trial. However, the first test caught her off guard, and she hadn't yet come up with a reasonable solution. Erosion. A solemn expression flashed across Jin Daoliu's face. He had sensed an evil aura when Hulina entered, compared to his own subtle expression. Qian Renxue was much more direct. Her disgust was almost uncontrollable. Bibi Dong and Hulina naturally noticed this, but neither expressed their displeasure. "Stand still." As soon as Jin Daoliu finished speaking, a pale golden energy surged from his body, enveloping Hulina. If angels abhor evil, then how could evil not abhor angels? When the golden light shone on her, Hulina clearly felt uncomfortable, but out of reverence for the high priest, she couldn't muster any thought of resistance. After a long while, Jin Daoliu solemnly withdrew his soul power and said to Bibi Dong in a deep voice, "I can't change her current state. You should know her current condition." He had originally thought Hulina had been tainted by some evil god's aura, but through investigation, he discovered that the source within her was the same as the aura occasionally emitted by Bibi Dong. The reason it's so obvious now is probably because she's only recently been infected or hasn't yet learned to conceal it. Is there really no way? What if we just dispel some of the mixed aura on Nana? Bibi Dong's eyes were fixed on Jin Daoliu, her hands clenched wide in her sleeves. Jin Daoliu didn't speak, but slowly shook his head. Seeing the tense atmosphere, Hulina tugged at Bibi Dong's sleeve fearfully, weakly saying, "Teacher, I'm really fine." Bibi Dong glanced at her disciple out of the corner of her eye, ignoring her, because she didn't believe Jin Daoliu had no way. Just as Jin Daoliu could sense the aura emanating from her, how could she not sense the angelic stench emanating from her? The two faced off like this, while Qian Renxue, standing to the side, remained silent, as if Bibi Dong and Hulina were two unrelated people. Originally, she thought she would be saddened to see Bibi Dong so concerned about Hulina, but now she found herself feeling nothing much. This might be growth. She was no longer the little girl who longed for Bibi Dong's concerned gaze. "Nana, let's go." Seeing Jin Daoliu unmoved, Bibi Dong's face darkened, and she turned to walk out of the hall. Hulina responded and quickly ran to Bibi Dong's side, tightly grasping her slightly warm hand. But just as she was about to step out of the hall, she seemed to remember something, turning back to give Jin Daoliu and Qian Renxue a smile and nod. Crack. The chopsticks in Qian Renxue's hand broke, and a dark look flashed across her face. What does she mean? She could have pretended not to care, but that smile combined with her eyes revealed a lot. Was it smugness? Or mockery? Jin Daoliu sighed and quickly tried to appease her. Bibi Dong remained expressionless the entire time, not saying a word, leading Hulina all the way back to the papal palace. Summon all the elders. After instructing the servants, Bibi Dong could no longer suppress her anger. She didn't believe Jin Daoliu's words, but she couldn't do anything if he disagreed. Now she could only rely on herself. She had already passed her 5th divine trial, and it was time to obtain the 8th and 9th spirit rings for her 2nd spirit. Those so-called angel god followers were nothing but a bunch of hypocritical fools. Once she became a god, Hulina would naturally revert to her original state. However, the 6th trial required a massive amount of death energy, and she couldn't let Qian Renxue and Ningfengzi continue to act so recklessly. Bibi Dong, considering the current situation on the continent, pondered. Pass on my order, have the Heaven Dao Empire immediately cease its attack on the Star Luo Empire. Since the 7 treasure glazed tile school has joined the Spirit Hall, it should act like a subordinate sect. Summon Ningfengzi and his disciple Li Sun to Spirit City, summon the Spirit Hall spirit masters scattered outside, and simultaneously conduct a troop inventory. A series of orders were issued, causing the surrounding attendants to wipe the sweat from their brows. They didn't know what was wrong with Bibi Dong, but they understood that the continent was about to change. A moment later, several figures suddenly flew out of Spirit City, their target the Star Dao Great Forest. In the Starfall Empire, at the edge of the Karsus Mountains, not far from the Forging God Mountains, and another 300 to 500 miles beyond those mountains lies Jengxin City, a key stronghold of the Starfall Empire. However, this place has now become the encampment of the Heavenly Dao Army. Densely packed tents are now stationed here, creating a brightly lit scene when viewed from the night sky. Li Sun and his group descended from the sky, immediately alerting the sentries. What is that? After recognizing the group, the sentries' gaze fell upon the irregularly shaped sphere. Chapter 313 I've become 1,000-handed Azura? Thump. A muffled sound rang out. Even with the gentlest movements, the sheer size of the azure bull python still caused a thud when it hit the ground. It was just nightfall, and most of the soldiers were still awake. Hearing the sentries' exclamations and the noise, they rushed out of their barracks. Damn, this thing seems to be alive. The azure bull python was enormous, even curled up. It was a magnificent sight. One soldier seemed to have a sudden realization and quickly shared with the others. Look at its head, doesn't it look like a dragon from legend? It really is. Someone compared it to their memory. Antlers, bull's face. Compared to other dragon-like creatures on the continent, the azure bull python resembled a traditional Eastern dragon. How many years old must this soul beast be? Many were shocked. Li Sun did not drive the soldiers away, allowing them to observe it. Then, while the azure bull python was still unconscious, he and the heavenly dream ice silkworm channeled their spiritual energy into its sea of consciousness. The tenacity of a 100,000-year-old soul beast is such that even if it stood still and let these soldiers cut it down, it would take them a day or two. Even using weapons would only speed up the process. This can be seen from the fact that Bibi Dong and the Spirit Hall had been chasing the azure bull python and Titan giant ape for several days. With a forced insertion of spiritual power into its sea of consciousness, the azure bull python fell into deep chaos again. If the azure bull python were in a conscious state, even if Li Sun and Bian Meng joined forces, they would not be able to achieve such an effect with spiritual power. However, since capturing it and returning, They had taken advantage of the Azure Bull Python's unconsciousness to invade its mind multiple times. With these layers of invasion, Li Sun didn't know if the Azure Bull Python would become stupid now. At this time, some familiar faces of Li Sun also gathered around. Yang Wudi, the dragon and snake couple, and Meng Yiren. Li Sun also saw Hou Wu, Shui Binger, and Oscar among them. As for Feng Xiaoshan, Li Sun ignored him. At this moment, everyone was looking at the Azure Bull Python with shock, praising it incessantly. Is this the Azure Bull Python? The Emperor Soul Beast of the starred out Great Forest? The snake granny's hand, gripping her scepter, trembled slightly, her aged eyes revealing disbelief. It can't be wrong. I'll never forget that scene. Dragon Du gripped his beard tightly, his mind replaying the time in the starred out Great Forest when he and his wife, along with Sword Douluo, fought against a Titan giant ape and the Azure Bull Python. Unbelievable, truly unbelievable, the snake granny murmured, a flicker of reminiscence in her eyes. Back then, she and her husband had almost been severely injured by the Titan giant ape with a single blow, yet now, the Azure Bull Python, even more powerful, had been captured alive by them. They knew firsthand the terror of a 100,000-year-old soul beast. Killing it was incredibly difficult, let alone capturing it alive. Meng Yiren circled the Azure Bull Python, also recalling the past, her face filled with undisguised shock. However, perhaps because they hadn't seen each other for so many years, she didn't dare approach Li Sun to greet him. This made the dragon and snake couple, who had just come to their senses, stamp their feet in frustration and hurriedly pulled their granddaughter forward. Seniors, it's been a long time, hasn't it? Li Sun greeted them with a smile. It has indeed been several years. I didn't expect that the boy from back then has grown into such a handsome young man. Snake Granny looked Xiang up and down, and couldn't help but nod, her expression clearly that of someone looking at a grandson-in-law. After the Stardew Great Forest incident, they had visited the 7 Treasure Glazed tile school once, but at that time Li Sun had not yet expanded Zunayang Tower. Although both sides expressed their cooperation, it was only a verbal agreement of mutual support. Later, although some shares were given to establish cooperation, the two sides had not met again, only exchanging letters and reports from time to time. You two seem to be in good health, Li Sun smiled with great poise. What followed was a few casual words. Li Sun was actually quite surprised by the arrival of the dragon and snake couple. In the war between the two great empires, although Tiandao held the upper hand, the battlefield wasn't a contest, it was a matter of stopping short of defeat, and bad luck often led to death. However, since they had come, he should treat them with more respect. Long time no see. Seeing the dragon and snake couple leave to chat with Sword Douluo and the others, Hou Wu and Shui Binger gracefully stepped forward. Because they were about the same age, the two didn't seem distant. Why are you here? Before Li Sun could speak, Ning Rongrong couldn't wait any longer and quickly stepped forward to stop Hou Wu and Shui Binger. At this moment, Zhu's Huking and Du Guyan also walked over from the side. They hadn't been worried when the dragon and snake couple had intentionally or unintentionally introduced Meng Yiren. Mainly because Li Sun showed no interest, and also because Meng Yiren wasn't considered pretty enough. But Shui Binger and Hou Wu were different. Both were top-tier beauties, and Shui Binger's looks and figure were no less than theirs. Joining the 7 Treasure Glazed tile school, always enjoying benefits without contributing anything, makes us uneasy. Hou Wu swayed her hips and turned, passing Ning Rongrong to Li Sun's side. That's why we've come to the front lines to risk our lives, also to earn that soul bone. Li Sun knew Hou Wu had a fiery personality, but he hadn't expected her to be so bold, completely ignoring the warning looks from Ning Rongrong and the other two. He glanced at the slender arm draped over his shoulder. Think carefully, the 7 Treasure Glazed tile school is investing in your future, not expecting anything in return right now. The battlefield is not like the Soul Master competition. No enemy will show mercy just because you're young. Li Sun could already feel Feng Xiaoshan's almost collapsing gaze. It seemed he hadn't managed to win Hou Wu over in the past few years. But thinking about it, it made sense. Back when he was crushing his way through the competition, the merged Blazing Fire Academy immediately conceded defeat. Hou Wu and Feng Xiaoshan probably hadn't made a bet. Perhaps back then, he was invincible to them. And probably still is. Shui Binger was more reserved, not as bold as Hou Wu. Hearing this, she tucked her long, sky blue hair behind her ear. If a soul master is always kept in a greenhouse, no matter how outstanding, they'll always just be a flower. Since we dared to come, We were naturally prepared, right? I heard some people can even kill titled experts. If we don't hurry up and improve, we might have to bow and call you your majesty when we meet again, Ho Wu chimed in, ignoring Ning Rongrong's murderous glare, and breathed into Li Sun's ear. You agree, right? Thousand-handed Azure your majesty, thousand-handed Azure your majesty? Me. Li Sun turned to look at Ho Wu. What's going on? He knew thousand-handed Azure, but he hadn't seen that person in a long time. How did that title suddenly appear on him? But he didn't want the title anyway. You didn't know. Ho Wu was taken aback, then smiled and said, this title was arranged for you in advance based on your martial soul true form. Rumor has it that your martial soul true form is 600 or 700 meters tall and has 1,000 arms. We came here this time to see it for ourselves. That's a bit exaggerated. It's not even 600 or 700 meters tall yet. Rumors always get more and more exaggerated as they spread, and who knows how far they'll go in the end? Li Sun quickly refuted the rumors. Chapter 314 Breaking Through the Title. How tall is it? Ho Wu licked her lips, curiosity flashing in her eyes. You'll find out how tall it is when the time comes. Ning Rongrong had been holding back for a long time, and seeing that Ho Wu seemed to be getting bolder, she quickly grabbed Li Sun's hand and shook it. Ho Wu was taken aback by Ning Rongrong's action, then looked at Li Sun's expression. Really? Then I'll have to take a good look then. After saying this, she subconsciously brushed the hair behind her ear with the arm that was on Li Sun's shoulder, and removed it without leaving a trace. Shui Binger also saw all of this, and seeing Li Sun and Ning Rongrong looking so intimate, her eyes flickered, and her smile faded a bit. Although she had already expected it, this scene was still a bit of a disappointment. People admire the strong, and she was no exception. Shui Binger felt that she should be among the first to directly feel Li Sun's strength. The reason she chose to join the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School was firstly for the benefits, and secondly to see if she could interact with Li Sun more. The idea was good, but Li Sun kept disappearing without a trace, and they couldn't even get any information about him. All they knew was that Ning Rongrong, Zhu Xiaogang, and Du Guyan had also disappeared. Shui Binger glanced at the latter two, thinking to herself, it seems Ning Rongrong has won. However, things quickly overturned her understanding. Although Ho Wu removed her arm from Li Sun's shoulder, she didn't move away, whether out of embarrassment or something else. Immediately afterward, Shui Binger saw Zhu Xiaogang and Du Guyan approach, not holding Li Sun's hand like Ning Rongrong, but expertly smoothing out the wrinkles and dust from his clothes. Shui Binger felt a momentary daze, not understanding the situation of the four of them. Ho Wu was also stunned, not even reacting to being pushed aside by Du Guyan, and even subconsciously taking a step back. The most shocked were Feng Xiaoshan and Oscar. Li Sun was currently enjoying unparalleled popularity, so the two didn't dare get too close, but they still managed to see the whole situation from a few steps away. Feng Xiaoshan had been pursuing Ho Wu relentlessly for years, but she had never reciprocated, and their relationship had remained lukewarm. Even so, he hadn't given up, displaying an attitude of wherever you go, I'll follow. Feng Xiaoshan had guessed who Ho Wu liked and had some expectations. But even with his strong heart, he couldn't bear seeing Ho Wu's intimate actions towards Li Sun. Fortunately, Ning Rongrong appeared in time, mending his heart again. When Zhu Xiaogang and Du Guyan appeared beside Li Sun, Feng Xiaoshan felt no more worry, only admiration. Looking at the three women, each a beauty on their own, Oscar's eyes flashed with envy. He had always been disliked by girls because of his martial soul, and he couldn't understand the current situation of the four. Now, besides fear of Li Sun, he also felt a touch of reverence. After a long while, Ho Wu and Shui Binger snapped out of their daze, exchanging glances and seeing the strange and inquisitive look in each other's eyes. Let's talk again when we have some free time. I have some important things to do now, and I think I've accumulated enough. Seeing that Sword Douluo and the Dragon Snake couple had finished their pleasantries, Li Sun smiled apologetically at the group. He then slowly walked to the massive head of the Azure Bull Python. Unbeknownst to everyone, Li Sun's 5 clones suddenly dissipated, and then 5 pure soul energies from the same origin suddenly appeared within Li Sun's body. His soul energy surged dramatically, and the barrier that Li Sun was just a hair's breadth from breaking through to the title stage was instantly breached. An aura suddenly spread out from him, instantly covering an area of 1,000 meters. The soldiers and low-level soul masters nearby were instantly terrified by this unexpected pressure. They trembled and knelt on the ground, trembling with fear but not knowing what had happened. Higher-level soul masters were also not unscathed, such as Fangs, Ocean and Oscar. Feeling the oppressive aura emanating from Li Sun, they instantly broke out in a cold sweat. Although they could still stand under the pressure, their legs trembled slightly. This aura? Had Li Sun reached the title level? Shui Binger and Ho Wu covered their mouths, their eyes widening in astonishment. The higher the level of a soul master, the more difficult cultivation becomes. Although rumors of Li Sun killing a title master were widespread, their veracity remained to be verified. Back in the soul master competition, Li Sun was over level 50, while they were over level 40. Although they knew Li Sun was strong, now that they were level 60, Li Sun shouldn't be more than 20 levels behind them. However, the oppressive aura surrounding him and the fear in their hearts at this moment were undeniable. Although they had never felt the pressure of a title master before, the two knew this was definitely not the aura of a soul Douluo. Moreover, he hadn't obtained a soul ring yet. Suddenly, everyone seemed to realize something, and they all turned their gazes to the azure bull python. Only then did they understand. Compared to these young people, the older generation of powerhouses, while not as severely affected by the pressure, were still quite shocked. A titled Douluo under 19 years old, the thought alone was terrifying. At this moment, the dragon and snake couple's gaze towards Li Sun changed. They exchanged a glance, instantly understanding each other's meaning, and both looked at their granddaughter. Meng Yiren, currently resisting the pressure emanating from Li Sun, noticed her grandparents' gazes and a hint of doubt flashed in her mind. Sword Douluo, Bone Douluo, and Poison Douluo felt a chill and instantly vanished from their spots, forming a triangle to protect Li Sun and the azure bull python in the center. Yang Wudi also quickly commanded his troops to lead the surrounding people away. These people had already experienced the shock, now they were only worried about whether Li Sun's absorption of the soul ring would go smoothly. After all, this concerned the future of the sect. Li Sun familiarized himself with the surging power within his body, and the previously uncontrollable pressure instantly became obedient, disappearing in a flash. 12 years. From the age of 6 to becoming a titled Douluo, it took him a full 12 years, a truly long time. Li Sun sighed inwardly, then his emotion surged. This was merely a new starting point for him, a ticket to truly join the ranks of the continent's top powerhouses. The water-cold sword appeared in his hand, aimed at the azure bull python's eyes, and with a gentle thrust, it shot straight out. Just like when he awakened his martial soul and stood in the 7 treasure glazed tile school's main hall, only now his martial soul had become much color. Swoosh, the sharp sword pierced through the bullseye, reaching deep into its brain. A chill began to spread, and frost began to form on the azure bull python's eyelids. Although in a state of unconsciousness and confusion, the fear of death was instinctive. The azure bull python's body, though bound tightly, trembled uncontrollably. Gradually, the trembling subsided until the last breath dissipated. The water-cold sword instantly shattered the azure bull python's skull and returned to Li Sun's hand. At that moment, a dazzling red spirit ring slowly rose and hovered above the corpse of the azure bull python. Whoosh! This caused some people who had never witnessed the process of hunting a 100,000-year spirit ring to gasp in astonishment. Chapter 315. It's a good night. Double update today, extra update tomorrow, new chapter begins now. The red light, dazzling and irresistible, couldn't be concealed by the darkness or the brightly lit camp. At that moment, everything around seemed to be coated with the color of that red spirit ring. Soldiers and spirit masters alike stared wide-eyed at the spirit ring floating on the azure bull python, their hearts pounding uncontrollably. A 100,000-year spirit beast was the pinnacle known to everyone on the continent, its spirit rings coveted by countless spirit masters. If any spirit master could obtain a 100,000-year spirit ring, it was no exaggeration to say that this person would stand among the top ranks of the continent. Many had witnessed Li Sun's spirit rings and were astonished by the 3 100,000-year spirit rings beneath his feet, but that astonishment paled in comparison to the shock of a 100,000-year spirit beast dying before their eyes, its fresh spirit ring floating out. Ho Wu, Shui Binger, Fangs Ocean, Oscar, Meng Yiren, and others all looked on with envy, yet had to suppress their own desires. A touch of jealousy inevitably arose in the hearts of many in the camp. Li Sun ignored the outside disturbances. With Sword Douluo and his 2 companions, Yang Wudi and other 7 treasure glazed tile school experts, plus the tens of thousands of Heaven Dao troops, absorbing spirit rings in this camp was safer than in the Star Dao Great Forest. He sat cross-legged, his true thousand-hands martial soul appearing in his right hand, a red spirit ring slowly drifting towards him, drawn by his spirit power. This wasn't the first time Li Sun had absorbed a 100,000-year spirit ring, he was already quite adept at it. Considering the age of the Azure Bull Python, Li Sun felt he was getting a bit of a loss. However, since it had been delivered to his doorstep, it wouldn't be good to refuse. He could only thank nature for its gift. A surge of energy flowed into his body from the spirit ring. The originally rampant and violent energy, upon entering Li Sun's meridians, was like falling into a bottomless ancient well, transforming into a trickle that flowed into his limbs and bones. Yellow, purple, purple, black, black, red, red, red. 8 spirit rings appeared one by one, slowly rotating around Li Sun's body. The red spirit ring on his martial soul seemed to be summoned, gradually spreading outwards to the outermost ring of the 8 spirit rings. When the 9th spirit ring was embedded in the outermost ring, an even more terrifying pressure suddenly expanded from Li Sun's center. Trembling, fear. Ordinary people and some low-level spirit masters could not withstand the pressure and prostrated themselves on the ground as soon as the aura appeared. Only in this way could they alleviate that tsunami-like pressure on their bodies. If Shui Binger, Ho Wu, and others could still barely resist when Li Sun broke through earlier, at this moment, their bodies felt as if they were being crushed by a giant mountain, falling into an ice cellar. Their souls and bodies trembled, their knees slowly bent, and everyone present was affected except for the 3 titled individuals and a few powerful individuals. But just when everyone was about to collapse to their knees, the pressure suddenly disappeared. Everyone in the camp felt a sense of relief, as if their souls had been liberated. Everyone looked as if they had just been pulled from a river, soaking wet and breathing in the fresh air. Li Sun opened his eyes, feeling the surging soul power within him, and slowly stood up. Emphasizing his 9 soul rings, he appeared exceptionally imposing. Level 91, he scanned the area with his spiritual power, finding the Azure Bull Python soul bone and storing it in his soul tool. There were too many people here, it wasn't a good time to distribute them. Haha, now our 7 treasure glazed tile school has 4 titled disciples. Poison Douluo always spoke his mind. Li Sun was his grandson-in-law, and he was even happier now that Li Sun had broken through to titled disciple than when he himself had broken through to level 95. Yes, who could have imagined that the skinny child from back then would grow to this level in just over a decade? Sword Douluo smiled, as if he could still see the sallow-faced, thin boy Li Sun had been when he first entered the sect. But in the blink of an eye, that figure overlapped with Li Sun's present self, transforming into the tall, handsome young man he was today. Bone Douluo laughed heartily, his eyes gleaming with joy. He waved his hand at the officers. Bring wine, meat, and money. Today is a day of great joy for the sect and for Heaven Dao. Let's reward the entire army. Long live the Heaven Dao Empire. Long live the 7 treasure glazed tile school. Long live Li Sun. Orders and messages were relayed, and excited shouts echoed throughout the canyon. At this moment, everyone in the 7 treasure glazed tile school and the Heaven Dao army felt a sense of pride. Zhu Zhuking, Ning Rongrong, and Du Yuyan's eyes flashed with pride. In this atmosphere, everyone was infected. Even Feng Zia Ocean and Oscar couldn't help but feel their hearts boiling. Shui Binger and Ho Wu, immersed in this atmosphere, exchanged a glance, both noticing a change in each other's gaze. The bonfire was lit, and the lively dancing made for a wonderful night. Martial Soul City was very close to the Heaven Dao Great Forest. Perhaps its founders originally intended to prevent soul beast uprisings, suppressing the powerful soul beasts within for the human race, and preventing them from escaping and causing harm to the continent. 4 flying titled experts, a distance of only a few dozen miles was but a fleeting moment. Above the Stardow Great Forest, figures swiftly swept across the sky. Although rumors of the spirit beast's rejection of humans had circulated in the past 2 years, Bibi Dong and her group paid no heed. The arrival of the 9 titled experts would make even the 2 great empires tremble, and this represented only half the power of the spirit hall. In mid-air, Chrysanthemum Douluo, half a step behind Bibi Dong, looked at the figure before him and said with reverence, "Your Majesty, that Azure Bull Python should be in the central lake." Only a small number of people knew of Bibi Dong's strength. Anyone who did would choose to submit, just like him, even those in the Hall of Worship. Chrysanthemum Douluo, about to absorb his 2nd spirit ring, felt a pang of fear. It's a boon for the 7 treasure glazed tile school, Bibi Dong scoffed. She had known for a long time that Elder's Thornblood and Serpent Spear had helped the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School hunt the Titan giant ape, and hadn't interfered much then. After all, it was a good thing for the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School to join the Spirit Hall, as it would help her unify the continent. However, as time went by, the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School and Qian Renxue became increasingly intertwined, completely disregarding her, the Pope. If Ningfengzi didn't know his place this time, then the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School would have no reason to exist. The wind howled in her ears, but the starred-out great forest remained silent, as if all the spirit beasts had fallen into deep slumber. Bibi Dong frowned. This situation was very unusual. Even if they feared the aura emanating from this group, shouldn't the spirit beasts that roamed at night be terrified? Could something have changed in the starred-out great forest? The food chain relationship between spirit beasts and humans was already fixed, and apart from some scholars and those with their own defects, few people paid attention to the movements of spirit beasts. Humans, from ancient times to the present, have always been interested in their own kind. And the Spirit Hall's focus in recent years has been on the situation on the continent and the various forces. Bibi Dong hadn't been here for more than 10 years, and some information she had obtained came from documents. As they approached the central lake of the starred-out great forest, beams of moonlight refracted across the water, scattering across the surrounding landscape and creating a beautiful scene. If only those enormous soul beasts weren't there. Bibi Dong hovered in midair, suddenly finding the night less beautiful. Human, halt, a clear voice rang out. Chapter 316. A few self-righteous beasts, a good beating will teach them a lesson. New volume. The crisp words didn't shatter the beautiful moonlight, but they robbed Bibi Dong of her ability to appreciate beauty. Soul masters have exceptional eyesight. At her level, distances are as clear as day. The voice came from a jade swan, accompanied by several enormous soul beasts. A bear about 15 meters tall, a tree about 20 meters tall emitting a faint glow, a 3-headed dog about 7 or 8 meters tall, and a dragon? When did so many 100,000-year-old soul beasts appear in the starred-out great forest? Bibi Dong had no other thoughts but a series of questions. Your Majesty, Chrysanthemum Douluo exclaimed softly, his voice trembling slightly, seeing Bibi Dong seemingly frozen in midair. He could sense the power of those soul beasts, the terrifying aura they constantly exuded filled him with dread. It wasn't that he was cowardly, but even the weakest among them, the purple dragon and the 3-headed mastiff, seemed beyond his ability to handle alone. The remaining 3 soul beasts each gave Chrysanthemum Douluo the illusion that they could rival Pope Bibi Dong. Not only Chrysanthemum Douluo, but the other titled individuals were also on high alert. Bibi Dong had brought 8 titled individuals with her this time, aside from Chrysanthemum and Ghost Douluo, who were Super Douluos, Ghost Leopard Douluo, Spirit Kite Douluo, and others were ordinary titled individuals. Bibi Dong regained her composure and calmly looked at BG. Where did you come from? Where is the soul beast that was here? We've been here from beginning to end, we just haven't shown ourselves. BG spread her wings and flew to a position parallel to Bibi Dong. Our appearance means that you humans can no longer freely enter the starred-out great forest to hunt soul beasts as before. The Demon King had been startled when he noticed Bibi Dong and her group. Their aggressive approach clearly indicated they were there to hunt 100,000-year-old soul beasts. He immediately summoned all the soul beasts. If it were an ordinary group, even with many titled experts, they would have attacked to teach the humans a lesson. However, Bibi Dong's aura was incredibly strong. Apart from Xiaogang and herself, no one present could rival her. If the 2 of them were restrained, the rest would face an onslaught from numerous powerful humans. The beast god was still asleep, recovering from his injuries, and they didn't want to disturb him unless absolutely necessary. After a brief discussion, they decided to use the humans as a deterrent to drive them away. Alright, let's go. Bibi Dong's gaze swept over the spirit beasts present, and she gestured to the titled members of the Spirit Hall before slowly retreating. The elders of the Spirit Hall immediately understood and hurriedly followed. These spirit beasts were too powerful, although they outnumbered each other. If a battle broke out, everyone would be at risk of perishing. BG, do you think if a fight breaks out, we can leave all these humans here? Xiaogan's eyes flashed with ferocity as it watched Bibi Dong and the others retreat. It had been holding back from the very beginning. It's possible, but unless the beast god awakens, there's a risk of some of us perishing, and we might even face a full-scale counterattack from humanity. BG landed lightly on the lakeside, reassuringly saying, This is the best case scenario right now. Wan Yao Wang. Scout again and see if they've really retreated. Wan Yao Wang's eerie light expanded in the direction Bibi Dong had left, and after a moment, he said, "They've reached the outer perimeter and will be leaving the starred out Great Forest soon." "That's good." BG nodded and returned to the bottom of the lake. The night was still, the central lake returned to its original state, and the soul beasts rested. Several streaks of light flashed across the sky above the outer perimeter of the starred out Great Forest. At this moment, Bibi Dong stood silently at the forefront of the group, making the elders of the spirit hall behind her tremble with fear. Even Chrysanthemum Douluo and Ghost Douluo dared not utter a word, fearing to anger Bibi Dong. No one expected this operation to fail in this way, nor did they expect that such a powerful group of soul beasts was hidden in the starred out Great Forest. Just now, judging from what that spirit beast said, it seemed that spirit masters would no longer be allowed to enter the starred out Great Forest to hunt spirit rings. The elders frowned deeply at the idea of banning spirit masters from hunting spirit rings in the starred out Great Forest. The group moved quickly, returning to Spirit City in less than half an hour. In front of the Papal Palace, Bibi Dong suddenly stopped, causing the Spirit Hall elders to tremble. "Your Majesty." Some elders quickly gave Chrysanthemum Douluo a meaningful look. Chrysanthemum Douluo initially wanted to ignore it, but after thinking about it, he steeled himself and came to Bibi Dong's side. "Go and summon the elders of the Hall of Offerings, Your Majesty." The three elders, Guangling, Jinjun, and Jiangmo, are alright, but the rest? Chrysanthemum Douluo lowered his head, hesitating. "It's alright, I'll personally go and talk to Jin Daoliu." "Yes." Bibi Dong stood in front of the Hall of Offerings, a slight sense of unease creeping into her heart. She frowned, guessing it might be related to the rejection she had received with Hulina earlier that day. Suddenly, a figure appeared before her, and Bibi Dong quickly cleared her mind. "What is it?" Jin Daoliu's eyes flashed with doubt. How could the actions of so many elders of the Spirit Hall be kept secret? However, they had left in such a hurry that he hadn't had time to understand the details. Several 100,000-year-old spirit beasts suddenly appeared in the starred out Great Forest, declaring that humans are forbidden from setting foot there again. Bibi Dong briefly explained the situation. "I need to call upon all the elders of the Hall of Offerings." The elders she referred to were Golden Crocodile Douluo and the third and fourth elders. These three were different from the elders at the bottom of the ranking. They generally wouldn't accept her orders except for matters concerning the Spirit Hall. After hearing the whole story, Jin Daoliu fell silent. He had analyzed many things from the few words he had just heard, the most important being that Bibi Dong was about to add the last two spirit rings to her second spirit. As the holy maiden whom the Spirit Hall had once carefully nurtured, he knew Bibi Dong's talent and aptitude better than anyone. But her growth to this point was still beyond Jin Daoliu's expectations. His emotions told him he should suppress Bibi Dong's development to buy Qian Renxue some time, given Bibi Dong's unpredictable personality. But reason told Jin Daoliu that Bibi Dong's actions over the years, concerning the development of the Spirit Hall, were correct. Moreover, he couldn't hold Bibi Dong back forever. Given the Pope's power, Jin Daoliu feared that refusing would drive Bibi Dong into a frenzy, leading her to launch a full-scale attack on the starred out Great Forest with the Spirit Hall's resources. Seemingly sensing Jin Daoliu's hesitation, Bibi Dong, her heart heavy, said with a half-smile, "Jin Daoliu, I understand you're truly powerless to help Nana, but this matter concerns the future development of the Spirit Hall. Do you still intend to refuse?" Bibi Dong could guess Jin Daoliu's inner turmoil, so she had prepared her words beforehand. If it were simply for her own sake, Bibi Dong felt Jin Daoliu might not offer help. But if the future of the Spirit Hall was mentioned, it would be different. This place bordered the starred out Great Forest, where there were so many spirit beasts. Not only herself, but she believed Jin Daoliu would also be restless. In the end, people are still selfish. What kind of bullshit angelic glory is this? Jin Daoliu pondered for a long time. Although he didn't want Bibi Dong to grow stronger again, the words those soul beasts had uttered were indeed inappropriate. A few arrogant beasts, a beating will make them behave. Bibi Dong thought of those soul beasts and smiled contemptuously. Chapter 317 15 titled Figures Descend Upon the Starred Out Great Forest. 15 figures stood outside the starred out Great Forest. Excluding those with important duties, such as Serpent Spear and Bloodthorn, Bibi Dong had deployed a total of 15 titled individuals for this trip. Among them, 6 from the Hall of Offerings were all Super Douluo, with the second elder reaching a cultivation level of 98. While the 8 elders were relatively weaker, Chrysanthemum and Ghost were still quite powerful, possessing a formidable martial soul fusion technique. In truth, Bibi Dong had to thank that soul beast. If it hadn't stubbornly refused to allow humans to set foot in the starred-out Great Forest again, she wouldn't have been able to persuade Jin Daoliu to relent so easily. How could she tolerate others snoring under her bed? Those soul beasts probably never expected to return so quickly. Hell-born beasts. When we entered the central area earlier, those soul beasts seemed to have been waiting for a while. They might have some kind of detection method. Elder Lingyan, please use your soul skill to conceal yourselves. During the battle, keep an eye on the purple dragon and the azure bull python. I need their soul rings. After Bibi Dong finished speaking, she slowly ascended into the air, and the others quickly followed. Lingyan Douluo activated her martial soul, and a pair of wings slowly unfolded from her back. Then, her 5th soul ring flashed. A cry that was almost inaudible to humans rang out one after another, forming invisible ripples that enveloped everyone. Because they needed to conceal their tracks, Bibi Dong and the elders of the Spirit Hall did not rush as quickly as they had the first time. But every road has an end. When she saw the central lake again, Bibi Dong felt much happier than before. Especially when she saw the incredulous looks in the eyes of the 3 soul beasts by the lake, she could hardly suppress her smile. After all, they were not human, and their wisdom was limited. She had thought that after the Titan giant ape died, she would have to spend time finding another 100,000-year soul ring. But unexpectedly, the starred-out Great Forest had replenished it. Now they could collect their 8th and 9th spirit rings at once. Attack! With those 2 simple words, the 15 people unleashed their martial spirits, instantly filling half the sky with a dense array of spirit rings. Among them, Bibi Dong and Golden Crocodile Douluo were undoubtedly the most dazzling. The pressure emanating from their red spirit rings far surpassed that of the others. Xiaogan's eyes flashed with killing intent as he roared, "Human! You're courting death, you dare return again?" Crimson King roared to the sky. ZG stared at the sky in astonishment. They had considered that the humans might be unwilling to accept defeat, but that was a matter for later. They hadn't expected these people to return in less than 2 hours, bringing so many reinforcements at once. At this moment, the Demon King and BG had already entered the lake bed to slumber. Even if they came to their aid, it would take some time. However, even her anger was useless now, because the human attack had arrived. Spiritual Avatar, sensing the terrifying aura emanating from the spirit beast, the Spirit Hall members dared not be careless, each revealing their strongest form, as a misstep could easily lead to counterattack from the spirit beast. Spirit rings lit up, each finding its opponent based on its strength. Each was somewhat inaccurate, as the 15 Titled Douluos were on average 5 against 1 spirit beast. 8th spirit skill, Spider Emperor Clone. 3rd spirit skill, Death Spider Web Binding, Bipolar Stillness Domain. The 3rd and 8th spirit rings beneath her feet lit up simultaneously, instantly enveloping Bibi Dong in layers of purplish-black armor. Under the effect of her spiritual avatar, she resembled a spider. Bibi Dong's 8th spirit ring skill created a clone possessing 100% of her original power. Joining her in attack were Chrysanthemum Douluo, Ghost Douluo, the 4th Elder Lion Douluo, spiritual power level 97, and the 5th Elder Light Feather Douluo, cultivation level 96. Tear the sky claw, Xiaogang roared to the sky, its internal energy surging and flowing down its arms to its sharp claws. But before it could strike, it was enveloped by the dual stillness domains of Chrysanthemum Douluo and Ghost Douluo. With its 480,000 years of cultivation, it wouldn't be under the control of Chrysanthemum and Ghost Douluo's domains for long, but in a battle between experts, the moment often passes, let alone with so many experts present. Layers of spider webs instantly wrapped around it, and the 6th spirit rings under Bibi Dong and her clone's feet lit up simultaneously, spider legs piercing its body. At this moment, Lion Douluo's attack also arrived. Energy surged from his hands, and sharp claws formed from his fingertips, attacking Xiaogan's body like lion claws. Light Feather Douluo also fired arrows. Xiaogang was almost overwhelmed by the attack in an instant. But the tenacity of a spirit beast's vitality and the strength of its physique were unmatched by a spirit master. Xiaogang endured the injuries and swung its claws down with all its might, 4 dark golden energies surging out, heading straight for Bibi Dong and Lion Douluo. Swoosh, a tearing sound rang out. Because Lion Douluo was a close combat fighter with formidable strength, he instinctively chose to meet Xiaogan's attack head-on. But how could a heaven-tearing claw, which even injured someone as powerful as Dawn, be so easily blocked? Lion Douluo's body was instantly torn apart by 4 dark golden energies, and the remaining force continued towards Bibi Dong. Another body was torn apart, and Bibi Dong's clone vanished in an instant. Seeing such a powerful attack, Bibi Dong was stunned, Chrysanthemum Ghost Douluo felt a chill, and Light Feather Douluo was also taken aback. Unlike Bibi Dong's group, which encountered Xiaogan's powerful attack, the 10 members of Golden Crocodile Douluo and Azure Phoenix Douluo's group fared much better. Each of them, carrying 4 titled warriors, injured ZG and the 3-headed Crimson Demon Hound with their first strike. Although the 2 soul beasts reacted later, the initiative had already been lost. Although the 3-headed Crimson Demon Mastiff was a 280,000-year-old soul beast, the Golden Crocodile was no weakling either. Behind it were the demon-slaying Thousand Army Brothers, all level 96, and the Sea Ghost Douluo and Demon Bear Douluo, 4 titled warriors in total. ZG, however, was weaker, only a little over 100,000 years old. The Azure Phoenix Douluo, at level 97, along with the 4 Douluos, Ni Wang, Tuo Bazai, Ghost Leopard, and Ling Yuan, nearly killed it in a single exchange. What? Just then, Ling Yuan Douluo exclaimed, immediately attracting the attention of those around them. Amidst a fierce battle, the titled warriors followed to gaze and saw the Lion Douluo being torn apart by the Bear King's claw. They all knew soul beasts were powerful, and had experienced countless battles in their growth, otherwise, Bibi Dong wouldn't have brought them all at once. But the Bear King's strength still exceeded their expectations. This made them feel a lingering fear. Fortunately, 2 other soul beasts were missing, otherwise, the casualties today would have been incalculable. Quickly, finish this quickly to prevent those 2 soul beasts from returning to reinforce. Golden Crocodile Douluo's face darkened, and he unleashed a barrage of skills as if they were free. The death of a level 97 elder was already unbearable for the Spirit Hall. They couldn't afford any more mistakes. Upon hearing this, the other titled warriors were alarmed and attacked without holding back, their soul skills surging forth. ZG and the Crimson King were almost instantly severely injured. Bibi Dong, seeing this, also knew the situation was perilous. Xiaogang tried to rush to their aid several times, but she stopped him, only to have her own body killed once. Fortunately, her 9th soul skill was immortality. Almost no one except a god-level being could truly kill her. But just as everyone was locked in fierce combat, the central lake suddenly surged. 2 extremely powerful auras emanating from it, and an even more terrifying aura seemed to be awakening from its slumber. Quick, Golden Crocodile Douluo shouted, punching the Crimson King on the head, while the others' attacks followed. In an instant, the 3 Crimson Demon Hounds lost their ability to resist. Meanwhile, the battle on Murasaki's side also came to an end. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 318 The Sun at Dawn. Roar, the Bear King roared furiously, its booming sound seemingly capable of shattering eardrums. Every time it tried to support the Crimson King and Purple Princess, it was blocked by the human woman before it, its eyes slowly turning blood red. Its bloodlust was almost overflowing, yet this human seemed impossible to kill. Another sky-tearing claw strike nearly tore the human to shreds, but she was healing. Dual Polar Stillness Domain, Chrysanthemum Douluo and Ghost Douluo, suppressing their fear, seized the opportunity during the Bear King's attack to control it, buying time for Bibi Dong. Light Feather Douluo also took advantage of this opportunity to launch an attack, firing arrows relentlessly at the Bear King's vital points. But for some reason, this soul beast possessed an exceptionally strong physique and suffered little damage. Success. Retreat. Just then, Golden Crocodile's voice rang out. Chrysanthemum Douluo and Ghost Douluo turned to see that the other 2 battles had ceased, and Golden Crocodile and the others were carrying 2 soul beasts, retreating rapidly towards the edge of the starred out Great Forest. Your Majesty, this news filled the 2 with joy. It's alright, let's go too. Having created the opportunity, Bibi Dong had recovered. Sensing the situation in the lake, she gestured to Chrysanthemum Douluo, Ghost Douluo, and Light Feather Douluo, and instantly retreated. Don't even think about running. The effect of the polar stillness domain on Xiaogang was short-lived, it returned to normal in an instant. However, by then, the group had already flown a distance. Another sky-tearing claw was unleashed. However, due to the consecutive strongest attacks and the injuries to its body, its attack power and speed were greatly diminished, and Bibi Dong and the others narrowly dodged it. Humans, you're courting death. Just then, the central lake suddenly exploded, and two extremely powerful auras surged out. It was BG and the Demon King. They were furious. No one had expected humans to be so despicable, returning in such a short time with so many powerful figures to launch a sneak attack. Chase? The beast god is about to awaken too. Enraged, BG's voice was sharp, unlike her usual calm and clear tone. Her fury drove her to disregard her healing abilities and give chase. Branches spread from the Demon King's body, using their pulling force to quickly pursue him. The elders of the Spirit Hall felt no joy at their victory, silently rushing forward. The death of the fifth elder, the lion Douluo, had greatly impacted them, a level 97 powerhouse. Killed in a single blow by a soul beast. If that had struck them, the outcome would have been obvious. And this was only one of them. If the other two soul beasts were also present, facing 5 soul beasts simultaneously would likely have been a fierce battle or even death for them, even with 15 titled warriors. Fortunately, their success weakened the soul beast's power. The group continued their rapid flight, carrying the colossal Crimson King and ZG, but their large numbers prevented them from being slowed down. Although the 3 spirit beasts were still in pursuit, the tension in everyone's hearts eased considerably. What if the spirit beasts reached Spirit City? What a joke. The Spirit Hall had nearly 70,000 spirit masters. Even if many were scattered throughout the continent, the number of spirit masters in Spirit City was still around 30,000 to 40,000. Moreover, the city possessed a unique pillar of strength belonging solely to the Spirit Hall, the Grand Elder Douluo. If these spirit beasts dared to come to Spirit City, the Spirit Hall would ensure they never returned. But just as the elders of the Spirit Hall were beginning to relax, an incredibly terrifying pressure erupted from the central lake of the starred-out Great Forest. Sensing this aura, all the elders and grand elders of the Spirit Hall paled. They felt an extreme power emanating from this aura, comparable only to the ultimate titles among humans. Bibi Dong's expression changed drastically. She hadn't expected such a powerful spirit beast to be hidden in the central area of the starred-out Great Forest. Just sensing its aura, Bibi Dong knew she was no match for it. This filled her with a sense of urgency. Her first martial soul wasn't strong, mostly consisting of functional skills. Her only option now was to quickly attach the last 2 soul rings to her second martial soul. Qian sped through the air, his heart filled with boundless rage. Ignoring the injuries inflicted by the heavenly tribulation, he forcibly awoke from his slumber. The Crimson King had followed him for countless years, and ZG, though 100,000 years old, was a pure-blooded true dragon. Neither could be lost. Roar, a dragon's roar, silent for countless millennia, resounded across the continent. Numerous soul beasts were summoned, and the starred-out Great Forest, peaceful for countless years, began to stir. One by one, the soul beasts raised their heads from their daze and ran in the direction Qian indicated. Their destination was none other than Martial Soul City. It was midnight, and all creatures except those adapted to the darkness were asleep. Rumble, rumble, rumble. Suddenly, the earth began to tremble, awakening everything. Earthquake, the residents of Martial Soul City screamed as they ran out of their homes. Just then, numerous streaks of light streaked across the sky, flying straight towards the Papal Palace. A moment later, these streaks of light emerged from the Papal Palace again, and countless powerful figures poured out of the Spirit Hall's gates. Only then did the residents of Spirit City realize that something terrible was about to happen. Spirit beasts have emerged from the starred-out Great Forest. And they seem to stretch as far as the eye can see, a soldier cried out from the Spirit City walls. This situation immediately caused panic. Everyone had only read about beast tides in books, but no one had ever experienced one firsthand. Given the terrifying nature of spirit beasts, everyone imagined the horrific consequences. Fortunately, this was Spirit City, with its many spirit masters, which offered some reassurance. Suddenly, a chilling pressure descended, stemming from the disparity in strength and the instinctive fear of the soul. Affected by this aura, ordinary people collapsed to the ground, and spirit masters were not far behind. Those with lower strength almost instantly lost the courage to resist. And just as countless people were caught in this terrifying chaos, angels descended. Golden light streamed down over Wuhan City, dispelling the darkness of the night. It was as if a sun hung high in the sky, bringing light and warmth to the people. The terrifying pressure vanished, and outside the city, a battle as fierce as the end of the world erupted. Numerous powerful figures from the Wuhan Hall surged forth like a tidal wave, engaging the soul beasts outside the city in a fierce melee. Soul skills were unleashed, beast roars echoed, and soul beasts fell one after another, along with human casualties. Just then, beams of seven-colored light entered the bodies of the soul masters fighting outside the city. Inside the papal palace, Bibi Dong pulled the sharp spider legs from Ziji's body, her eyes flashing with a fierce light as she looked at the floating crimson soul ring. Although she couldn't absorb the three-headed crimson demon mastiff yet, once her second martial soul was equipped with the eighth soul ring, her strength would increase further. How dare these mere soul beasts be so rampant? The morning sun shone on the earth, bringing life to all things. Li Sun, enduring the discomfort of a hangover, slowly opened his eyes. It turns out that even a strong person can get drunk if they drink enough, since this stuff stimulates the nerves. Feeling a heaviness on his body, Li Sun looked around blankly. He saw two snow-white legs straddling him. What's going on? Looking around, he found Zhu Xiaogang and Ning Rongrong holding his arms on either side. Feeling the smooth touch on his arms, Li Sun felt a little unreal, but he couldn't remember what happened last night. What shocked Li Sun even more was that Du Yuan was also lying at the innermost part of the bed. Could it be because of Ho Wu and Shui Binger's performance last night? He had had this thought more than once before, but had always been rejected by the three of them. Now, under some unknown circumstances, it had actually happened? Chapter 319 Two Letters. The word inexplicably popped into Li Sun's mind. Although he didn't know what had happened last night, he could now make up for it. His hands moved slowly across the slippery surface, drawing unconscious displeasure from those beside him, and Li Sun quickly stopped. He breathed a sigh of relief when he saw that Zhu Xiaogang and Ning Rongrong showed no signs of waking. Li Sun continued slowly, not knowing how much time had passed before finally managing to pull himself away. Let me go, I need to go to the toilet. Someone tried to escape, but Li Sun, who was right beside the bed, immediately stopped them. The morning sun rose amidst the commotion. Jiangxin City, a crucial defensive line of the Star Luo Empire, was now wide open, allowing the Heavenly Dao army to enter. This greatly disappointed those who had marched for days, preparing for a tough battle. Now, with Li Sun's promotion to title, the Heavenly Dao army's strength had been further enhanced, and the soldiers desperately needed military merit to rewrite their family history. Because it was now foreseeable that this war would end quickly, leaving them with few opportunities. Outside the city lord's mansion, a large crowd had gathered, including many Star Luo nobles, gentry, and even soul masters, all hoping to curry favor with the newcomer. However, neither Li Sun nor Sword Douluo had time to pay them any attention. Inside a luxurious reception room of the city lord's mansion, the 7 treasure glazed tile school members were chatting and laughing with Nia Gao, the patriarch of the imperial clan. Old Rhino, you finally made the right decision this time, Yang Wudi laughed heartily. Of the 4 major single-attribute families, 2 had already perished, excluding the remaining juniors. Seeing their old brother submit to Yang Wudi was a great relief. I'm ashamed to say that I must thank you all for showing mercy to the imperial clan, Nia Gao said, bowing to the group at the head of the table. Patriarch Nia's ability to persuade the various forces in Jiangxin City to abandon their resistance has saved us a lot of trouble, Sword Douluo nodded with a smile. Li Sun and the others had initially thought that the imperial clan would follow the Min clan's path and go all the way with the Clear Sky sect. However, since the other party has chosen to submit, whether out of consideration for their strength or for Yang Wudi's sake, they should give them a chance. After all, Li Sun wasn't a bloodthirsty person. By the way, Old Rhino, do you know where the Haoshan sect went? Yang Wudi asked curiously. After Li Sun was promoted to title, he and the 3 Sword Douluo had come here once before, but the Haoshan sect had already disappeared by then. The Haoshan sect withdrew from Jiangxin City on the very day you captured the Azure Bull Python. I heard from Tang Xiao that they wanted to go into seclusion. Nia Gao smiled self-deprecatingly. Actually, the Haoshan sect didn't intend to suddenly abandon us this time, but I refused their invitation. Given the current situation, they can no longer withdraw. Li Sun laughed. Yes. It's too late now, If the Haoshan sect is going to remain aloof from worldly affairs, then they should maintain it, instead of causing trouble and then going into seclusion after realizing they can't win. Now that half of the Star Luo Empire has fallen into the hands of the Heaven Dao Empire, where can the Haoshan sect hide anymore? A sect with hundreds of members, are they really going to hide in the deep mountains and forests, relying on farming for self-sufficiency? If they could truly be so focused, Tang Yuhu wouldn't have appeared in Xian Dao City in the first place. And the Haoshan sect wouldn't have closed its mountains near Xian Dao City. Thinking of this, Li Sun suddenly remembered someone. It seemed Tang Yuhu was still being held captive, and the treatment he had ordered was quite good. She hadn't been tortured or interrogated. My lords, there are 2 urgent letters. Just as Li Sun's thoughts were wandering, a servant knocked on the door and handed him the letters. One is from my teacher, and the other is from Xingluo City. Li Sun waved the letters in his hand and opened the one from Xingluo City amidst the curious gazes of everyone. It wasn't that he didn't value Ning Fengzi, but the letters from his teacher were usually full of concern or inquiries about Ning Rongrong and the others, the typical behavior of a left-behind elder. Li Sun unfolded the letter and quickly scanned it. Manager Wu's letter says that the Star Luo Emperor has announced the relocation of the capital to Xiangxing City, and the Haoshan sect has announced its seclusion. We were just talking about this, and it seems like whatever comes to mind happens. Li Sun chuckled, handing the letter to Sword Douluo. Hell, the Haoshan sect's title as the continent's #1 sect is probably in jeopardy. Douluo took the letter from Sword Douluo. Everyone present read the letter one by one. After understanding the information, these renowned powerhouses of the continent displayed complex emotions on their faces, some sighing, some mocking. The once incomparably glorious Haoshan sect had now completely declined. This wasn't a decline in talent, nor was it the sect's annihilation, it was the destruction of its reputation. This kind of decline was actually more terrifying than the previous 2, because when people mentioned it again, they would no longer feel awe, nor longing, nor would they remember its glory. People would only remember the stain on the Haoshan sect, until they felt it was pointless to think about it anymore, and then the sect would disappear. It's said that a person's death isn't when they die, but when the last person forgets their name. Li Sun ignored this and unfolded Ning Fengzi's letter. This time, he didn't quickly skim it, but carefully read every word. After a moment, Li Sun handed the letter to Sword Douluo, then fell into deep thought. What does Bibi Dong mean by this? Sword Douluo took the letter, and when he read its contents, a serious look flashed in his eyes. They had imagined Bibi Dong's reaction after emerging from seclusion, but they hadn't expected her to directly summon Li Sun and Ning Fengzi to the spirit hall. Although the tone was rather forceful, the 7 treasure glazed tile school was indeed currently under the spirit hall's control, and Bibi Dong wasn't being unreasonable. A trap? After reading the letter, this phrase inexplicably came to everyone's mind simultaneously. Why didn't the sect master discuss it with us before setting off? Poison Douluo asked, somewhat puzzled. The letter mentioned that Ning Fengzi had already departed for Spirit City, and judging by the time, he should have arrived by now. It's alright, we can talk again when we get to Wuhan City. Li Sun slowly stood up. Everyone doesn't need to worry. Although Bibi Dong is the Pope, she doesn't rule by herself, with Qian Renxue around. Even if Bibi Dong wants to do something, she can't bypass Jin Daoliu. Besides, our strength isn't weak now. What should we do here? Yang Wudi pointed to the map of Xingluo. Hold your ground. The results we've achieved so far have met our expectations. Weren't we prepared for this? This expedition against Yondao was originally planned to coincide with Bibi Dong's seclusion. Now, occupying half of the Xingluo Empire is already beyond expectations. Li Sun thought for a moment. Grandpa Sword, this time it'll be easier for you and me to go. Fewer people will make things easier. Sword Douluo nodded. With the 2 of them and Ning Fengzi's assistance, it would be easier to escape if anything happened. Chapter 320 The Fall of 4 Titled Figures? Meeting with Jin Daoliu. Jiangxin City and Spirit City weren't far apart. At Sword Douluo and Li Sun's current flying speed, they could arrive in about half a day. However, when the 2 saw the dilapidated city walls and the traces of a great battle outside Spirit City from high above, they were somewhat bewildered. They inexplicably wondered if they had come to the wrong place. Even the cities where Heaven Dao and Star Luo fought didn't seem to have suffered such extensive damage, did they? At this moment, most of the 60 to 70 meter high city walls of Heaven Dao City had collapsed, with nearly 10 meter thick granite slabs scattered everywhere. Most of the houses near the city walls were also destroyed. Did Bibi Dong send us here to ask for reinforcements? Sword Douluo's eyes flashed with surprise and doubt. It doesn't seem like it. These buildings have clearly been damaged for several days, and the letter has probably been going through several transfers for some time. The two didn't linger outside the city for long. After a brief visit, they headed towards Zunayang Tower, which was close to the Spirit Hall. Compared to the ruins of the outer city, the inner city was in much better condition, and the damage decreased the closer they got to the Spirit Hall. Having walked about halfway down the street, the houses and shops on both sides showed no signs of damage. Business is actually quite good. Standing at the entrance of Zunayang Tower, Li Sun chuckled as he watched the bustling crowd. Looks like the money I spent back then wasn't wasted. Located in Wuhan City, Zunayang Tower wasn't far from the Wuhan Hall. From some of the private rooms, one could see the entrance to the Wuhan Hall, making it very popular with the locals. Upon entering, the innkeeper respectfully led the two upstairs to a private room not open to the public. Teacher, as soon as the door opened, Li Sun saw Ning Fengzi looking out a window, seemingly lost in thought, and couldn't help but call out to him. Uncle Jian, Xiao Sun, please sit down. Startled by the voice, Ning Fengzi turned around. When he saw that it was Li Sun and Sword Douluo, a smile appeared on his face. He quickly got up and went to the coffee table to pour tea for the two of them. Uncle Jian is alright, but Xiao Sun hasn't been back to Yongdao for almost 2 years, and he doesn't even mention coming back to see his teacher. Rongrong is the same, she doesn't even come back to see her father. In a few years, she might forget about me. In the past 2 years, Li Sun and Ning Rongrong's group have either been on Seagoat Island or out hunting for spirit rings. Even when they come back, they go straight to the front lines, and they haven't met Ning Fengzi at all. Sword Douluo couldn't help but laugh when he heard Ning Fengzi's sour tone. In a couple of years, you'll probably be holding your grandson, and you'll have plenty of time to be annoyed. Li Sun sat to the side drinking tea, smiling but not responding. Now that his teacher has become his father-in-law, he really can't be as carefree as before. Of course, the main problem lies with Zhu Huqing and Du Guyan. Really? Ning Fengzi's eyes lit up when he heard the implication. Okay, if he doesn't come back, he doesn't come back. We can just bring the child back then. No, we should have the wedding first. This time it was Sword Douluo's turn to smile and drink his tea. Ahem, teacher, we've been very busy lately. We haven't finished dealing with things on Seagoat Island yet, and you know the current situation. Let's wait until things calm down. Li Sun wiped his mouth with his sleeve, then pointed to the towering papal palace outside the window. Mentioning the Spirit Hall, Ning Fengzi's smile faded considerably, and he nodded. Now is indeed not a good time. By the way, teacher, what happened to Spirit City? When Grandpa Sword and I arrived, it looked like a major battle had broken out outside the city. Seeing that he had successfully changed the subject, Li Sun quickly continued. A beast tide. Ning Fengzi immediately recounted the events. It was quite a coincidence. I had just arrived in Spirit City when the beast tide broke out, and I did manage to lend them a hand. The main problem is that those spirit beasts are too strong. If the Spirit Hall were to lose, the consequences would be unimaginable. Just thinking about the boundless beast tide and those powerful 100,000-year-old spirit beasts filled Ning Fengzi with lingering fear. The Spirit Hall was indeed very strong. Li Sun's intelligence gathering was accurate, and Ning Fengzi witnessed the Spirit Hall's full strength that very night. Even the powerful Spirit Hall members, like Jin Daoliu, were at a disadvantage in that battle. Ning Fengzi struggled internally, but thinking of the hundreds of thousands of residents of Spirit City, he softened. Teacher, you didn't do anything wrong. Li Sun comforted him, seeing Ning Fengzi's inner turmoil. If I had been there, I would have made the same choice. Sword Douluo nodded in agreement. Although the 7 treasure glazed tile schools secretly considered the Spirit Hall their enemy, its members were not without conscience. Using any means to achieve one's goals might be called ruthless, but in essence, it's no different from being a villain. Even when resorting to schemes, one must adhere to one's principles. With the affirmation and support of Li Sun and Sword Douluo, Ning Fengzi felt much better. However, although the beast tide was repelled, the Spirit Hall suffered heavy losses this time. Among them, Sea Ghost Douluo, Demon Bear Douluo, and Rainbow Phoenix Douluo died in battle, and the second elder, Golden Crocodile Douluo, also self-destructed. So tragic. Li Sun was shocked and somewhat puzzled. With Jin Daoliu and Bibi Dong backed by Spirit City and receiving continuous support, Even someone as powerful as Dian with the spirit beasts from the starred-out Great Forest shouldn't have suffered such heavy losses. This is mainly due to Bibi Dong. Seeing the inquiry in Li Sun's eyes, Ning Fengzi slowly said, for some reason, His Holiness the Pope did not appear in the early stages. The strength of the soul beasts was indeed very strong. Although Jin Daoli restrained the dragon soul beast, the remaining 3 100,000-year soul beasts were not easy to deal with. Among them, the Emerald Swan, although its combat power was not obvious, had extremely strong healing abilities. Golden Crocodile Douluo was also forced into a corner. At that time, he himself was also in grave danger. If he had not self-destructed, not to mention himself, the casualties of the spirit hall would probably have been even greater, and it just so happened that several soul beasts were injured by Golden Crocodile's self-destruction, which laid the foundation for Bibi Dong's later arrival and victory. Only now did Li Sun understand the ins and outs, but Ning Fengzi still did not know the details of why the beast tide broke out. Teacher, have you seen the Pope? Not yet. The spirit hall suffered heavy losses this time. They may still be in grief for the past 2 days, so I did not disturb them. Li Sun expressed his understanding. Although the spirit hall is divided into factions, it is still quite united. Shall we wait a couple more days? Anyway, Bibi Dong wouldn't be looking for them with anything good, so it's better to wait. Let's go now and see what the spirit hall's current situation is like. Ning Fengzi stood up. Many people knew he was in Spirit City when he provided support that day. Although he had helped the spirit hall, it wouldn't be good to keep avoiding them. At the entrance of the spirit hall, Li Sun showed his papal decree, and a group of guards quickly let him through. The 7 treasure glazed tile school is quite wealthy now, and he and Ning Fengzi each had a papal decree. They walked in. Along the way, everyone was in a hurry, and no one had a smile on their face. It seems that the fall of 4 title masters has indeed dealt a significant blow to the spirit hall. Li Sun and Ning Fengzi did not go directly to see Bibi Dong, but went straight to the hall of worship. It was obvious that Bibi Dong's purpose in summoning them was not good. To avoid any major unpleasantness, it would be better to communicate with Qian Renxue and Jin Daoliu. A moment later, in front of the offering hall, Li Sun met Jin Daoliu, one of the 3 greatest powerhouses on the continent. Chapter 321 The First Meeting with Sendo Ryu. Before a colossal angel statue stood a refined middle-aged man, smiling at Li Sun and his group. Calling him middle-aged wasn't quite accurate. Li Sun knew the man before him was well over 100 years old. However, time hadn't etched its marks on his face. Beneath his long, golden hair, he appeared relatively young. This was Li Sun's second visit to the spirit hall, and his first time meeting Jin Daoliu. Sect Master Ning, I must thank you for your assistance the other day, Jin Daoliu said with a smile, his hand on his chest, bowing to Ning Fengzi. The 7 treasure glazed tile school had joined the spirit hall many years ago, and by rights, Jin Daoliu should address Ning Fengzi as the 11th elder, but he didn't. Great elder, you flatter me. Even if I weren't a member of the spirit hall that day, I would have helped if I had encountered the situation, Ning Fengzi said with a smile, bowing to Jin Daoliu along with Li Sun and Sword Douluo. As one of the strongest soul masters on the continent, even if their side had indeed helped him, the proper etiquette still couldn't be neglected. Seeing Ning Fengzi's politeness, Jin Daoliu smiled and nodded, then turned his gaze to Sword Douluo. You are Chen Jianjin's son, aren't you? You certainly have your father's style. As a peak powerhouse, his perception and knowledge were naturally incomparable to ordinary soul masters. Even before Sword Douluo arrived at the Hall of Offerings, he had sensed a sharp sword aura. Moreover, the closer he got to the Hall of Offerings, the stronger the sword intent became. If I have the opportunity, I would like to challenge you, just like my father. Sword Douluo stood straight, his wide sleeves fluttering without wind, like a sharp sword about to be drawn at any moment. Ning Fengzi and Li Sun were startled and were about to smooth things over. But then Jin Daoliu smiled and said, I accept your challenge, but you still need to reach the peak level. Chen Jianjin had died at his hands back then, so it was only natural for a son to avenge his father. Jin Daoliu wasn't afraid of this hatred, because he was confident he could suppress Sword Douluo, forcing him to work for the spirit hall despite his resentment. This was the spirit of the strongest on the continent. Sword Douluo nodded slightly, his aura suddenly subsiding. He had merely expressed his meaning. This was his way of the sword. The tense atmosphere instantly dissipated, and Jin Daoliu turned his gaze to Li Sun. And who is this? He had never seen Li Sun before, and he hadn't paid attention to the Soul Master competition back then, considering it merely child's play. Jin Daoliu looked at Ning Fengzi with suspicion, wondering when the Seven Treasure Glazed Tile School had recruited such a young titled individual. Jin Daoliu didn't believe this was the Li Sun that Qian Renxue had mentioned repeatedly, because their ages and cultivation levels didn't match. The youngest titled individual on the continent, Tang Hao, only advanced in his 40s, and although he hadn't examined Li Sun's bone age, he could confirm that the young man before him was definitely no more than 20 years old. A genius, a true peerless genius. If he continues cultivating like this, he will definitely become another limit Douluo. If he has the right opportunity, becoming a god is not impossible. Jin Daoliu's gaze towards Li Sun changed instantly. If this kind of prodigy wasn't from the Spirit Hall. Greetings, Grand Elder, my name is Li Sun. Noticing Jin Daoliu's gaze, Li Sun wasn't surprised. He believed that no matter where he went or which sect he belonged to, people would have different thoughts when they saw him. And now, the Seven Treasure Glazed Tile School was affiliated with Jin Daoliu's lineage, and with a connection to Qian Renxue, he wouldn't face any danger with Jin Daoliu. You are Li Sun. Hearing this, Jin Daoliu suddenly realized, indeed a genius. No wonder Xiaogang always mentions you. Qian Renxue's talent was beyond doubt. A divine level martial soul, innate level 20 soul power. Even after a few years of hard work, she was far beyond what ordinary people could compare to. But even with such a talented little girl, Jin Daoliu always heard her muttering Li Sun's name. Jin Daoliu could tell that Qian Renxue was feeling the pressure, and her current diligent cultivation stemmed from her desire to avoid being outshone. He had read Li Sun's information and admired Li Sun's talent, but he hadn't expected her to advance to the title level in such a short time. Senior sister's talent is actually better than mine, but she was held back by trivial matters in recent years, Li Sun said humbly, and he was telling the truth. A woman who had wasted her life until the age of 30, yet managed to cultivate from level 70 to godhood in just 5 years, her cultivation speed and talent were evident. Yes, that's actually my fault too. You're very good. Mentioning Qian Renxue, Jin Daoliu sighed. Come in and sit down. He then led Li Sun and the others into the sacred place in the hearts of countless soul masters of the Spirit Hall. Whether it was because of Ning Fengzi, or because of Li Sun and Sword Douluo, or perhaps a combination of all three, Jin Daoliu treated the group with the utmost respect. Pots of fine wine and exquisite dishes were laid out on the long table. Once everything was ready, everyone took their seats. Please take your seats, everyone. Xiaogang will be here shortly, Jin Daoliu transmitted, gesturing for them to sit. Everyone smiled and took their seats. May I ask what brings Elder Ning to the Spirit Hall this time? After a simple meal, Jin Daoliu inquired about Ning Fengzi's purpose, changing his address from Sect Master Ning to Elder Ning. The Spirit Hall's elders were originally ranked according to their cultivation level and the time they entered the Hall of Elders, but Ning Fengzi's situation was special, so a precedent was set. Sword Douluo was the 8th elder, ranking after the 2 Super Douluos, Thousand Jun Demon Subduing. Bone Douluo was the 9th elder, and Poison Douluo was the 10th elder. Ning Fengzi gently put down his wine cup. To be honest, High Priest, His Holiness the Pope summoned us, Master and Disciple. However, considering His Holiness might be quite busy, we didn't want to disturb him and came to the Hall of Offerings first. Oh, Jin Daoliu's eyes flashed, glancing at Ning Fengzi, then lingering on Li Sun. What High Priest Ning did is indeed reasonable. Spirit City is in dire need of rebuilding, and it's a busy time for the Pope. He had seen Ning Fengzi during the Beast Tide, but everyone was currently preoccupied with the fall of the many titled figures, so they hadn't paid much attention to Ning Fengzi. But after so many days, Ning Fengzi had come to the Hall of Offerings first, and he instantly understood the situation. He was still concerned about the conflict between Qian Renxue and Bibi Dong. Although he didn't want to see Spirit Hall so divided, Jin Daoliu was still pleased that Xiaogang had such a powerful backer. Moreover, Bibi Dong has caused too much damage to the Spirit Hall this time. Handing the entire Spirit Hall over to her might not be a good thing. Grandpa, teacher, Sword Master Junior Brother. Just then, a clear, melodious voice rang out. Everyone looked in the direction of the voice. They saw a plump, elegant young woman standing in the doorway. Her long, golden hair cascaded down like a waterfall, and sunlight streamed through the cracks in the door, bathing her in golden light. Compared to before, Qian Renxue had become even more beautiful. This was also the first time Li Sun and Qian Renxue had met in 2.5 years. Chapter 322 Collision. When Qian Renxue's eyes met Li Sun's, they sparkled, and she flashed a sweet smile. Xiaogang, your teacher came all this way specifically to see you. Jin Douluo glanced back and forth between the two, chuckled, and waved to Qian Renxue. It's been a while since I've seen my teacher either, Qian Renxue readily agreed, smiling as she sat down next to Jin Douluo. The two had met recently, but it was just a polite exchange, and Ningfengzi didn't elaborate. However, Qian Renxue's presence immediately lightened the atmosphere, making conversation less roundabout. After several rounds of drinks, Jin Douluo suddenly looked at Li Sun and uttered a seemingly unrelated remark. Xiaogang and Li Sun are actually quite close in age, so you should get along well. This statement immediately caused the lively atmosphere to freeze. Everyone present was an adult, and there was no shortage of shrewd individuals. They all understood the meaning behind Jin Douluo's signal. However, this also left everyone perplexed. Ningfengzi already knew about Li Sun and Ningrongrong's progress and naturally didn't want anything to disrupt their relationship. Sword Douluo, knowing how complicated Li Sun's situation was, immediately wore a strange expression. Li Sun, however, knew his own situation. Grandpa, my junior brother and I still have a very good relationship, Qian Renxue said, her cheeks flushing slightly upon hearing Jin Douluo's sudden remark. That's good. When you first told me about him, I didn't quite believe there were truly extraordinary talents in the world, but seeing him today proves I'm getting old. The student surpasses the master. This world will belong to you young people from now on. Jin Douluo affectionately stroked Qian Renxue's golden hair. Grandpa, what are you saying? Even with our great talent, aren't we still under your wing? Qian Renxue shifted her waist somewhat shyly, feeling that the chair seemed particularly uncomfortable today. Haha, the time I can protect you is running out. You probably don't know that your junior brother has already been promoted to titled cultivator. What? Qian Renxue was shocked, her beautiful eyes widening as she looked at Li Sun. You're already a titled cultivator, just luck. I only recently broke through. Thankfully I haven't encountered any bottlenecks yet. Li Sun was secretly pleased to see Qian Renxue's surprised expression. He knew that Qian Renxue had been secretly preparing to surpass him for the past few years. Receiving a positive answer, Qian Renxue's expression changed constantly, her slender hands hidden in her sleeves rubbing together. Today's news was truly unexpected. She had just been about to show off her cultivation to Li Sun, but now, since passing the third test, her strength had improved significantly. According to her calculations, even if she hadn't caught up with Li Sun, she was probably close. Now it seemed there was still a long way to go. No wonder Grandpa said that. Raising her head, she secretly glanced at Li Sun. Qian Renxue thought to herself. Jin Douluo noticed Qian Renxue's subtle actions. It seemed his granddaughter wasn't averse to the boy. Thinking about it, it made sense. Such monstrous talent even overshadowed the twin stars of the Haoshan sect. Moreover, his appearance was exceptionally handsome. Any woman would be drawn to him. Xiaogang, don't be discouraged. The real challenge comes after level 90. With your talent, I believe you'll catch up soon, Ningfengzi said, seeing things heading in the direction he didn't want. He quickly tried to smooth things over. Although it was a comforting remark, it did calm Qian Renxue down considerably. The main issue is that she suddenly thought about Li Sun's situation. She wondered what the three girls' relationship with Li Sun was like now. This inexplicable thought startled Qian Renxue, and she quickly shook off her thoughts, changing the subject. I wonder what Master is doing in Wuhan City. Even Qian Renxue herself realized something was amiss with these words. With Ningfengzi and Li Sun here, doesn't that mean the Heaven Dao Empire is currently without anyone in charge? And the only person who could make these people put aside everything to come here is. Sure enough. As Ningfengzi recounted Bibi Dong's situation, a hint of anger rose in Qian Renxue's heart. She and Bibi Dong had a tacit understanding, a mutual respect for each other. Qian Renxue's attitude had already been made clear. She wouldn't interfere in the affairs of the Spirit Hall, but Bibi Dong couldn't meddle in the Heaven Dao Empire's affairs either. She hadn't expected that so little time had passed. Bibi Dong had already reached out again. She hadn't even confronted her about the deaths of the elders and higher-ranking officials a few days ago. The more she thought about it, the angrier she became. The Spirit Hall had lost 5 titled figures at once, 2 of whom were high-ranking officials. Such a loss was incalculable. Qian Renxue's eyes turned cold as she looked at Jin Douluo. Grandpa, I believe Bibi Dong is no longer suitable to assume the position of Pope. This matter is not for you to decide. Suddenly, a cold voice came from outside the hall, tinged with anger. Everyone looked in the direction of the voice and soon saw Bibi Dong leading Hulina in. You just need to focus on your cultivation. It's best if you don't interfere in the affairs of the spirit hall. Bibi Dong surveyed everyone present, her brow furrowing slightly when her gaze fell on Li Sun. A hint of surprise flashed in her eyes, but she quickly turned her attention back to Qian Renxue. You want me to stay out of it? But how did you manage to control the spirit hall? Qian Renxue stood up abruptly, her eyes filled with rage. You caused the deaths of 5 title soul masters in one fell swoop. And nearly 1,000 soul masters? If you continue like this, you might be dragging the spirit hall into the abyss. Qian Renxue was stunned when she received the news 2 days ago. She immediately wanted to confront Bibi Dong, but her grandfather stopped her. She hadn't expected that Bibi Dong would come to her door before she even did, and with such self-righteousness. But it was only then that Li Sun and the other 2 truly understood the losses the spirit hall had suffered. It was extremely difficult for a soul master to cultivate to the title soul level. Aptitude, resources, and soul rings were all indispensable. Often, only 1 or 2 such individuals would appear on the continent every 10 to 15 years. Given this scarcity, each title soul master was incredibly precious, and the loss of even one could cripple a powerful force. The deaths of the previous 4 titled individuals were already shocking enough, but the loss of an unknown titled individual and nearly 1,000 soul masters was unexpected. This operation was indeed my mistake. Bibi Dong noticed Qian Renxue's gaze and her heart grew cold. But without this discovery, we probably wouldn't have known that such a powerful force was hidden within the starred-out Great Forest. Compared to being suddenly attacked without any preparation later, I think this outcome is acceptable. You're just making excuses. Qian Renxue slammed her hand on the table, her chest heaving with anger. Chapter 323 Bibi Dong's Power. Qian Renxue's anger was not without reason. The spirit hall was her home, and although the elders were outsiders, their hearts were with the spirit hall. When she was young, these elders had shown her much care and affection. But Bibi Dong, for her own selfish desires, knowing the situation in the starred-out Great Forest, failed to plan carefully and rashly issued orders, resulting in the needless deaths of these people. This mistake was extremely serious. I'm just stating the facts, Bibi Dong said with a hint of sarcasm. Besides, the result has already happened. What's the use of still dwelling on it? Or maybe I should leave the spirit hall. Although Bibi Dong's words were directed at Qian Renxue, her eyes were constantly fixed on Jin Douluo. If it were before, she might not have been so forceful, but now that her second spirit had obtained its 8th spirit ring, her strength had increased significantly. Moreover, Jin Douluo seemed to have been injured while fighting that soul beast. Furthermore, the spirit hall had just suffered such a great loss, and its members were in a state of panic. If they lost another powerful pope, their destruction might not be far off if the next beast tide came. This was also the source of her confidence. The power of those soul beasts still seemed so close. Although she had severely injured them this time, they could return at any time. Especially the leader of those soul beasts. Thinking of the golden-eyed black dragon, Bibi Dong felt a little heavy-hearted. Although that soul beast seemed to have fought Jin Douluo while heavily injured, its strength was considerable, especially its claw attack. If it weren't for Jin Douluo's backing from the spirit hall and the blessing of the angelic faith, even if the 2 of them joined forces, they probably wouldn't have been able to severely injure and repel it. Thinking of this, Bibi Dong felt inexplicably happy. The spirit hall really couldn't do without her now, haha. Seemingly retreating to advance, but actually manipulating the situation? Li Sun's gaze swept over the family. Although they had some thoughts in mind, their purpose in coming to the Hall of Offerings was to have Jin Douluo and Qian Renxue stand in front of Bibi Dong, and it wasn't appropriate to get involved at this time. Just as Li Sun was keeping his eyes down, he suddenly felt a bright gaze on him. Looking over in confusion, he saw Hulina staring at him with a flickering gaze. Li Sun was filled with doubt. The 2 seemed to have no interaction outside of the Soul Master competition, so what did Hulina mean by this? Perhaps seeing that Li Sun had reacted, Hulina casually shifted her gaze, looking at Bibi Dong's heels with great interest. She looked like a little follower. Xiaogang, just like Bibi Dong said, what's done is done, and saying these things now is useless. We need to look forward. Just then, Jin Daoliu spoke up. He gently patted Jin Renxue's arm, soothingly saying, "Don't worry about the Spirit Hall's affairs. Just focus on your cultivation and manage your Heaven Dao Empire well." Bibi Dong's words carried a clear threat, and with spirit beasts nearby, the Spirit Hall couldn't afford to risk losing more powerful figures. This old fox. Bibi Dong's eyes flashed. Jin Daoliu's actions were undoubtedly a way of telling her not to interfere in Heaven Dao's affairs. The unification of the continent is inevitable, and the Spirit Hall is about to establish its own nation. The Heaven Dao Empire must be incorporated into the Spirit Hall. Faced with Jin Daoliu's conciliatory attitude, Bibi Dong wasn't buying it. Ningfengzi, since the 7 treasure glazed tile school has submitted to the Spirit Hall, it should act like one. I hope you will return and complete the handover of power in the Heaven Dao Empire with the Spirit Hall as soon as possible. Furthermore, I see that Li Sun has also reached the title realm. The Spirit Hall is in dire need of manpower right now, so let him stay with the Spirit Hall. Everyone felt a chill at Bibi Dong's forceful attitude. Ningfengzi felt the pressure even more, and even the sword Douluo became more vigilant. Was this a plan to use him as a hostage? A thought flashed through Li Sun's mind, and then he saw Jin Renxue slam her hand heavily on the table. The Heaven Dao Empire's development to this point is all thanks to me and the 7 treasure glazed tile school. What right do you have to interfere at this time? Because I am the current Pope of the Spirit Hall. Pope. The Spirit Hall is my Jin family's Spirit Hall. Enough. Xiaogang. Seeing that Jin Renxue was about to continue, Jin Daoliu unleashed a powerful aura. The pressure of a limit Douluo immediately subdued everyone present. Even Bibi Dong was affected, her eyes flickering as she looked at Jin Daoliu with surprise and doubt. It's too early to talk about unifying the continent, but the Heaven Dao Empire's territory has indeed grown too fast. Let's slow down and digest our recent gains. It's not too late to discuss the merger of the Spirit Hall and the Heaven Dao Empire. When there are no more external threats, Jin Daoliu looked around, finally fixing his gaze on Li Sun. I'll call you Xiao soon. If you don't have anything urgent, I suggest you stay at the Spirit Hall. You and Xiaozu will have company here. Jin Daoliu's words immediately silenced everyone present. But Ningfengzi's tense nerves gradually relaxed. Bibi Dong's expression was somewhat unpleasant, her face constantly changing. Sensing the powerful aura emanating from Jin Daoliu, her hands clenched tightly within her wide sleeves. She hadn't expected Jin Daoliu, who had been silent for many years, to change so drastically, and judging from his aura, it seemed the battle with the Black Dragon hadn't injured him. This situation was unexpected and had thwarted many of her plans. Grandpa Jin, although I also want to stay in the Spirit Hall, I actually have many important matters to attend to. I came here at the invitation of His Holiness the Pope. If possible, I would like to finish my own business before coming to the Spirit Hall. Jin Daoliu's hint was obvious, and Li Sun quickly seized the opportunity, even changing his form of address. However, Jin Daoliu seemed quite pleased with this. Hearing Grandpa Jin, he smiled gently. Alright, then you go and take care of your important matters first. Come see me in Xiaogang when you're done. Okay, Grandpa Jin, I will definitely come to see you. Li Sun nodded repeatedly, his lips slightly upturned, revealing a row of neat white teeth, his smile carrying a hint of innocence. Good. Bibi Dong watched Jin Daoliu and Li Sun's back and forth, her teeth grinding, her face darkening. Jin Daoliu, since you're so protective of them, I hope you won't regret it. Bibi Dong practically gritted her teeth as she finished speaking, then, ignoring everyone's reactions, forcefully flicked her sleeves and walked out of the offering hall. Hulina rarely saw Bibi Dong so angry, which made her tremble involuntarily, and she hurriedly chased after Bibi Dong. But when she reached the door, she glanced back again before disappearing from everyone's sight. Li Sun felt the gaze directed at him and couldn't help but feel puzzled. He quickly searched his memories, trying to recall where he and Hulina had crossed paths. That vixen. Jin Renxue also noticed Hulina's unusual behavior, glancing at Li Sun out of the corner of her eye, and her dislike for her only intensified. She hadn't even settled the score for Hulina's provocation last time, and now she had provoked her again today. Chapter 324 The Eager to Learn Hulina. Jin Renxue felt suffocated and took a few deep breaths, suppressing the urge to overturn the table. It was bad enough that Bibi Dong had always expressed her dislike for her, but now even her disciple dared to ride roughshod over her. Grandpa, Jin Renxue felt wronged, her anger mixed with a bitter taste. She looked at Jin Douluo, hoping her grandfather would stand up for her. Little Zhu. You're a young lady now, and your strength has improved greatly in the past 2 years. It's time you learned how to hide your true feelings, instead of letting them show on your face. Jin Douluo comforted her with a loving expression, gently stroking her head. But sometimes, forbearance only emboldens the other party. Haven't you seen how she's starting to disregard you? Qian Renxue said, hearing her grandfather still lecturing her. But Jin Douluo didn't reply, instead smiling and gently shaking his head. Seeing that Qian Renxue still seemed somewhat unwilling, Li Sun said softly, Senior sister, this situation is already the best possible outcome. The annexation of the Star Luo Empire was a plan devised by Qian Renxue and Ningfengzi while Bibi Dong was in seclusion. This situation was expected. In fact, with Jin Douluo's support, the situation was far better than anticipated. Jin Douluo looked at Li Sun approvingly. Xiaoxu, in the future, besides cultivation, you can also learn from Xiaoxu in other aspects of life. This will benefit your growth. Seeing that her grandfather and Li Sun both spoke well of her, Qian Renxue, though still unwilling, calmed down. She pouted and began to ponder the deeper meaning behind their words. Seeing that his granddaughter seemed to have truly listened, Jin Douluo couldn't help but laugh heartily, a sudden, dull ache in his chest. In Wuhan City, inside Zunayang Tower, in a private room, Li Sun and the other two were sitting together drinking tea. Teacher, Heaven Dao should refrain from making any major moves in the near future. Just focus on consolidating our current territory. Ningfengzi nodded, but a faint worry lingered in his eyes. Bibi Dong said today that the Spirit Hall wants to establish a nation. It seems she already has a plan. Will this affect us? With Jin Douluo above us, there shouldn't be any problems in the short term, but if Bibi Dong becomes a god, it's hard to say. The difference between a limit Douluo and a god is like a titled expert bullying a newly awakened soul master. However, to avoid any unforeseen circumstances, it would be better if we transferred some of the strong individuals from Star Luo territory back. Considering Bibi Dong's unstable personality, Li Sun felt it was better to be cautious. Teacher, why don't you come with us to Jiangxin City first, and then you can return to Heaven Dao City with the Grandpa and the others? You have something else to do? Ningfengzi asked, puzzled. I'm going to the far north. Now that my first spirit has all 9 spirit rings, it's time to add spirit rings to my second spirit. Li Sun nodded. Before returning, he had asked Jin Douluo about some details of the beast tide. He was shocked to learn that Bibi Dong had captured 2 soul beasts. No wonder Dian was so angry. This also made him feel a sense of urgency. He originally thought that Ming and Erming becoming his soul rings, and the fact that the Star Luo Empire had been largely devoured by Qian Dao, would slow down Bibi Dong's progress. But he didn't expect Bibi Dong to find another way. With her madness and super strength, who knows what the future will hold. Moreover, the current situation has also reduced the number of weaker 100,000-year soul beasts remaining on the continent by 2. Knock knock knock. Just then, a soft knock sounded on the door. Immediately afterwards, the manager's voice came, Boss, there's a girl downstairs holding a Spirit Hall Elder's token, claiming to be the Pope's disciple, and she wants to see you. Li Sun and the other two exchanged glances, somewhat surprised. The managers of Zunayang Tower were all trained, and they would never come to a report unless they had already confirmed the authenticity. But what was Hulina doing here? Could it be that Bibi Dong couldn't swallow her anger and sent her to deliver some unpleasant news to them? Take her to the reception room, okay. As the voices completely disappeared, Li Sun and the other two stood up one after another. Although the 7 treasure glazed tile school was now protected by Jin Douluo, Bibi Dong was, after all, the current pope of the Spirit Hall. Jin Douluo and Qian Renxue were alright, after all, they were family, but the 7 treasure glazed tile school, in terms of both strength and status, could not easily slap them in the face. Soon, the 3 of them arrived at the reception room. Hulina had already found a seat, but upon seeing Li Sun and the other two, she quickly stood up. Greetings, Elder Ning, Elder Sword. After greeting Ningfengzi and Sword Douluo, she didn't know how to address Li Sun. Greetings, Brother Li Sun, don't be so polite, please sit down, make yourself at home. Ningfengzi smiled and gestured for them to sit. Li Sun and Sword Douluo nodded to Hulina and casually found a place to sit. Hulina smiled somewhat awkwardly, then carefully sat down in her original spot. I wonder if His Holiness the Pope has any instructions, Ningfengzi asked tentatively after Hulina sat down. Hearing this, Hulina lowered her head, a strange light flashing in her eyes, and tucked a stray hair behind her ear with her little finger. When my teacher saw Li Sun today, he went back and praised his talent and hard work, and even scolded me for it. He said I only know how to play and am rather lazy in my cultivation, and told me to come and learn from Li Sun. After hearing Hulina's words, the three of them simultaneously became wary. Besides meditation and physical training, what else can a soul master learn? Everyone's martial soul and talent are different. Bibi Dong's actions must have some deeper meaning. Could it be that she wants Hulina to monitor everyone's movements, or is her purpose to constantly remind the 7 treasure glazed tile school not to make any unusual moves? Li Sun frowned, recalling how Hulina had looked at him repeatedly in the Hall of Offerings. His gaze met Ningfengzi's for a moment. I might be going out for a while soon. The journey will be quite long, and it won't be convenient to take you with me. You go ahead with your work. I'll be staying in Xiandao for a while. We can talk again after you return. Sensing the refusal in Li Sun's words, Hulina quickly said, I won't cause you any trouble. Then she looked at Ningfengzi. Venerable Ning, when are you returning to Xiandao? Could you take me with you? She didn't use Bibi Dong as a threat, but she's already clinging to him. In the God realm, the Rakshasa god was feeling rather bored lately. Since Tang San passed the 3rd trial and defeated Xiaogang, she had lost much of her fun. Moreover, she had to move frequently to avoid the Azure god's pursuit. How boring. I just had some fun. Why are you chasing me so relentlessly? The Rakshasa god scoffed. Suddenly, her divine sense seemed to be stirred by the lower realm. The Rakshasa god's heart stirred, and he quickly and secretly turned his gaze toward a certain place on the continent. Chapter 325 Didn't the Azure Bull Python come back with you? Hey, not bad. Rakshasa goddess looked at the situation in the lower realm and nodded in satisfaction. It seemed that preparing a few more toys was the right thing to do. Who knows, they might bring her a surprise someday. A drop of ink-like energy appeared at her fingertip, and a rift suddenly appeared in the void before the drop of energy disappeared. Taking advantage of this brief opportunity, Rakshasa goddess turned her gaze elsewhere. Seeing that Bibi Dong's strength had improved again, she nodded almost imperceptibly. What's that kid doing in the starred-out Great Forest again? Rakshasa goddess frowned. Tang San's unwavering self-belief was something she hadn't expected, and something she didn't want to see. Because it would make her very bored. Her gaze quickly searched across the continent, and soon she saw a familiar figure, Xiaogang. However, Xiaogang was not in good condition at the moment. For some reason, he had returned to the Heaven Dao Empire and happened to run into an old student from Kanghu Academy, who was currently being beaten to the ground by several people. Level 19 soul power isn't enough to do anything. Rakshasa goddess was somewhat troubled. She found herself unable to come up with a reasonable way to get Xiaogang to take revenge on Tang San for devouring his soul power. Sigh. Here we go again. Before she could come up with a plan, Rakshasa god sensed a trace of aura and sighed. Just as the attack was about to strike, she tore open a rift and slipped inside. In the starred-out Great Forest at night, Tang San led Tang Hao forward, having become more familiar with this place than Tang Hao was now. The two soon crossed the mixed area. Little Sen, do you really think this place is safer than the Clear Sky sect? Tang Hao saw the central lake ahead through the layers of obstacles. It was a full moon, and the moon hanging high in the sky was reflected in the rippling lake water, like a painting unfolding on earth. Father, so many things have happened these past few years. Do you really think we can stay there peacefully? Tang San slowed his pace and walked slowly towards the central lake. Tang Hao fell silent. Their situation in the Clear Sky sect was indeed becoming increasingly difficult. Even with his elder brother's protection, they couldn't stop the sect's malice towards them. Now, they're blaming the sect's casualties and current decline entirely on the father and son. If it weren't for Xiao Sen, Tang Hao might have already given up and wouldn't have gone back. Father, the Clear Sky sect is finished. Tang San walked forward like a pilgrim, but his eyes revealed mockery. They've offended Li Sun, and given his personality, he'll definitely retaliate. Find a place to retreat into seclusion? Waiting for Tian Dao to completely annex Xingluo is just waiting to die? Thinking of the disgusted looks from the elders after he suggested the Clear Sky sect hide in the starred-out Great Forest, a cold smile appeared on his lips. Hearing this, Tang Hao felt a pang of resentment towards the sect, yet also a sense of pity. After all, It was still his home. Just as Tang San and Tang Hao were lost in their own thoughts, the moonlight ahead was suddenly obscured, followed by an attack accompanied by an angry roar, rushing towards them. Human, you dare to come, bang! A powerful aura struck Tang San, sending him flying backward instantly. The attack came too suddenly. Neither Tang San nor Tang Hao had time to react. Seeing Tang San fly backward like a cannonball, Tang Hao snapped to attention. He quickly channeled his soul power to chase after him, grabbing Tang San and pulling him protectively into his arms. But even a casual strike from the Bear King, with its hundreds of thousands of years of accumulated power, was difficult to withstand. Bang! 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 Tang Hao's back crashed through 3 large trees, sliding across the ground like a rolling gourd before finally dissipating the immense impact from Tang San. At this moment, not only Tang Hao was stunned, but Tang San was also dumbfounded. He hadn't expected this giant bear to attack without a word. Ignoring the blood from his mouth, Tang San cupped his hands towards the Bear King and said, "Greetings, Senior. Did this attack appease your anger?" Tang San spoke without daring to express any emotion, fearing it would displease the soul beast in front of him. Countless failures and setbacks from childhood had gradually taught him to be patient and restrained. "If I said I wasn't appeased, would you still stand there letting me hit you?" Disdain and disgust flashed in Xiaogan's eyes as he strode towards Tang San, each step causing the earth to tremble. If this human hadn't tricked the long worm away, how could the human powerhouses have so easily kidnapped the Crimson King and Ziji that night? Although the long worm was a bit weak, if it could hold off 2 or 3 people, it might have been able to hold out until the Demon King and Bichi arrived to reinforce them. Tang San saw Xiaogan's gaze, his heart skipped a beat, and he lowered his head, a flash of killing intent crossing his eyes. He hated this kind of look the most right now. Li Sun's indifference was infuriating, but this naked disgust and contempt was even more humiliating. It was like this with the Clear Sky sect, and now it was the same with the soul beasts. They were all truly courting death. "If it can appease you, Senior, what does it matter if I take another blow?" His chaotic thoughts vanished in an instant. When Tang San looked up again, he had a smiling face. But just then, Tang Hao stood up, his Clear Sky hammer appearing in his hand, and 9 spirit rings appeared one after another beneath his feet, especially the red spirit ring, which was exceptionally dazzling against the night. 100,000-year spirit ring. Xiaogan's eyes changed from disdain to killing intent. Hundreds of thousands of years of cultivation surged within his body, flowing continuously to his claws. Although he was injured, it was enough to deal with the rat among the 2 humans. "Enough, Xiaogan," a clear, cold voice came, and BG slowly landed between the 2 humans and the bear. "Have you forgotten what this child said about his mother?" Xiaogan wrinkled his nose, thought for a moment, and immediately remembered Tang San's account of his mother's sacrifice to the Blue-Silver Emperor. Xiaogan snorted coldly, calming the energy within his body. "I wonder what method he used to deceive me. You dare to insult my parents?" Tang San's eyes flashed coldly as he pointed at Xiaogan. "Even if I can't beat you today, I will fight you to the death." Tang San's words startled the 2 beasts and 1 human on the field. No one expected that, faced with such a huge difference in strength, Tang San would say such things because of his parents. A warm feeling rose in Tang Hao's heart. He gripped the Clear Sky hammer tightly and sent a telepathic message, "Little San, I'll buy you some time. Run." Just as Tang Hao was lost in self-pity, he heard BG say, "You're indeed remarkable. I didn't expect you to care so much about your parents' relationship. On behalf of Xiaogan, I apologize to you." Xiaogan, at this moment, also slightly toned down his arrogant demeanor from when they first met. Tang San's eyes flashed, his expression shifting between light and shadow, as if he were struggling internally. After a long while, he sighed, "Since Senior is so sincere, I can't hold on to this matter any longer. However, I only hope this is the last time, of course. I'm happy to see genuine affection between soul beasts and humans." BG's tone softened. "I wonder what brings you back this time. Didn't the Azure Bull Python come back with you?" End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.